Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Fed Katsuki olive oil with his fingers? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. One sick boy. That's it, and he could go home, shower, wash off the sweat from running around all day. As a priest, part of Izuku's job was to pray for the sick, which usually ended up in him either offering some makeshift medicine or awkwardly finding a way to get away from the smell of breathing corpses. The Closet's hospital was several miles out, or by that he meant 100, maybe 2. He'd never been. He lived on a secluded commune. Large farm, spread out houses, yet many of the tiny things littered throughout crop and animal fields. Tiny buildings were tucked between crops and livestock pens like they'd grown there by accident. Behind one of the barns stood a church, nearly as spacious as the fields themselves. He arrives at one of the larger homes and knocked gently. He's probably late. He's always finding some little mistake to make and forget to fix. He heard steps and a whisper, then the door pried open. "Oh, Auntie, I wasn't expecting you." He smiled for the first time that day, greeted by the familiar blonde woman. "Midoriya, I see you've taken to your new role well. Come in." She pulls the door open fully and steps to side. He steps in, taking in the faint smell of caramel. "It's sweet smelling," he said, nodding as he turned to face the woman. "Yes, it's this boy. He's been sweating nonstop all over my house. And of course he's not got a care in the world about the lingering smell." She walked down a long hallways, motioning for Izuku to follow. She seemed upset by the smell, but it was sweat like honey or caramel. Something he could drink and never get tired of. The smell stuck right under his nose, wedging its ways into his nose and refusing to leave. The hallway has obviously been cleaned recently. He can smell soap in the air. Even with such a refresh, that sweet smell still clung to him. They reach a door and she pauses, quietly saying something to him. He doesn't pay attention. He focuses on the crude K scratched into the doorknob. How is that even possible? Katsuki. They'd grown up together, and even though the boy was 4 years younger, he still mained to find a way to bully him. He'd hit PBRDY early, too early. Even before Izuku himself. He's stronger and used every opportunity to push me around. It was embarrassing, truly humiliating to be bullied by someone so young. So immature. And yet it managed to affect me even now. Their mothers had been friends long before either of them were born. That only made it worse. Whenever Auntie Mitsuki visited the commune, she never brought her son. Except that one day when Katsuki showed up, sat on his couch, wild grin sharp on his face, and destroyed half his notebooks like it was nothing. It was truly evil. Katsuki followed him down every path, determined to outdo him in any way possible. He took a moment to relish in his victory when he finally became a priest, only to find that Katsuki had been considered for the position and only turned down as he was too young. If he'd just been born a few years earlier. "Dear, are you listening?" She placed a stabilizing hand in his shoulder. "HM? Oh, sorry, Mitsuki. My head was somewhere else." He rubs the back of his neck, palm meeting wet skin. "It's alright, I was mostly going on anyways. To keep it simple, he's sick, won't stop sweating and complaining his bones hurt, which I find insane." She frowned at her own confusion. "Right. Well, be my guest." Clapping her hands together, she nods towards the door and shuffles back the upper level of her home. Izuku isikes in a breath and grabs at the handle. It's cold and rough, worn out from constant use. He turns it and lets the breath out before pushing into the room. The moment he opened the door, the smell hit him like a wall. Thick, wrong. It wasn't just stronger, it was overwhelming, like a storm of sugar melted in heat. It crawled into his lungs and stuck there, cloying and warm. His stomach turned and tightened, but not from nausea. From what? Katsuki lay sprawled on top of the sheets, shirtless, his chest heaving. His skin was tanned, slick with sweat, strands of blonde hair clinging to his forehead like gold thread dipped in honey. His eyes were half open, unfocused, fevered. There was a tremble in his fingers. But to Izuku, he didn't look sick. He looked like an angel. A cruel, sunlit, unholy kind of angel. Izuku stepped inside before he could stop himself, then paused. His throat tightened. The air was thick with it. Sweat. Karma. Thin. A strange heat. The door clicked shut behind him, and he startled at the sound. Sheet, Katsuki rasped suddenly, voice dry and hoarse. I thought you were that old hag again. Izuku laughed lightly, unsure of what to say. He swallowed, and Katsuki didn't laugh back. So, I must be dying if my mom sent you. He wiped sweat from his eyebrows with his palms, shifting his eyes to the window above his head. He wiped his hands on the blanket under him. I think you've got a bit of a fever. He didn't approach, just stayed clinging to the door, almost as harshly as the scent in the air. He ignored the response. I'm sure you're happy, right? He took a heavy breath and shifted his body. Izuku couldn't tell how he moved, but he seemed more open. He bit his lip. Why couldn't he respond? I mean, he could, but would he even acknowledge it? Or just ignore what he said as if it were unimportant? So, don't you have to pray over me? He finally looked over at him. Not smiling but not scowling like he usually did. He couldn't tell what face he was making. Katsuki sat up onto his elbows and it groaned in a way that implied it took everything out of him to do that simple action. His collarbones were sharp and glistening, his stomach taut but trembling, like something wholly left out too long in the sun. Izuku's fingers twitched at his sides. There was nothing soft about him, nothing delicate, and yet he looked like something that shouldn't be touched. Something already claimed by fire. I just figured you were kinda disgusted I was even around. He used air quotes when saying disgusted, a direct quote from several of their conversations. I never said that, weirdo. You seriously manufacturing dislike between us. Katsuki seemed to use all his air on that sentence, leaving him heaving. He couldn't count on one hand how many times Katsuki had said that to him. Now he was denying it? Maybe he was dying. Guess we've always been real tight, huh? He finally stepped away from the door. A small step, but closer is closer. Katsuki cracked a smile and turned his head away, still breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling out of rhythm. His eyes lingered. They shouldn't have, but they did. Katsuki's body was lean, all heat and sharp lines, slick with sweat that caught the light like oil on water. So, any other symptoms besides the, fever? He finally made his way to Katsuki's bed, standing a few feet away and trying his best to stare at the sheets. He stopped himself, taking a deep breath. He coughed. Maybe, suffocating. He coughed again and Izuku avoided looking up at him. You really shouldn't swear. I'm 19. He managed to respond without needing to take a breath that time. Is he really that out of breath? I mean, when he needed to make witty comebacks or rude remarks he seems fine. And his breaths were a little breathy? He's not sure. They sound exaggerated, whiny even. He nodded and tried to focus on whether or not he'd like to purchase sheets in such a color. He was trying. He truly was trying. It's not easy to ignore a shirtless boy practically miming his heart out in front of you and disguising it as a sickness. No, he wouldn't. He didn't know why he was thinking like that. Of course it was real. He was sick. He wasn't trying to impress him at all. And anyway, they were both men. Why would he even? You okay? He jerked his foot to the side, kicking Izuku in the leg. His breathing was better. How long had he been zoned out? Yeah, I guess I ought to start now. He tried his best to sound focused as Katsuki sank his body back onto the bed. The prayer fell from Izuku's lips naturally, rehearsed hundreds of times in preparation. He let his mind fall blank while his mouth moved. Cutting it short, he looked to the boy. His eyes seemed to go right through him, like he was seeing something Izuku wasn't. Done. Katsuki hummed. Izuku nodded in response and reached into his pocket. Katsuki sighed and turned his head away. The oil he simply placed a drop on the forehead of whoever he prayed over. Does it have to go on my forehead? I suppose it could go on your hands, yeah? He held the vial in his hand. Is it not just olive oil? Just put it in my mouth. As if it were a miracle, he was almost no longer out of breath. Probably from resting. It's sacred. The word tasted foreign, like he didn't want to say it. Like he should have simply complied. He pressed the vial against his fingers and toyed with the top. I don't have a dropper, no. His spine suddenly felt cold, poking into his back so noticeably it hurt. Right, but you have fingers, Katsuki sat up fully, using his hands to push himself upright. You shouldn't want to eat this. His body felt heavy. Like he didn't want to be here. Right, because I want to be even more wet? And oily. He wiped sweat off his stomach. It completely coated his hand. He wiped it back onto his skin, spreading it thinner. Fine. He agreed only to get it over with. To finally go home and forget about Katsuki for the rest of his life. He unscrewed the cap and placed it into his opposite hand, closing 2 fingers around it and leaving 2 to dip into the vial. Usually he'd simply place his hand on someone's head or palm and be done, but now he wasn't sure what to do. All right, just open your mouth for me. Katsuki complied. He felt weird. He shouldn't be putting this in his mouth. He told himself the base was simply olive oil with a few essential oils, all perfectly edible. Maybe it would help him be less of whatever it was he was being right now. Izuku tentatively placed his fingers on Katsuki's tongue. Just barely hovering, trying his best not to be invasive. Katsuki closed his mouth slowly. So slowly that Izuku could see his tongue wrap around his fingers. He SED lightly, paused, then split Izuku's fingers with his tongue, getting every last drop of oil. Izuku swore he heard Katsuki into his fingers before finally opening his mouth again. It was just the taste, right? People liked the taste of olive oil, didn't they? He felt a sharp pain in his fingers and immediately pulled them back. You bit me. He went to rub his fingers only to find they were coated in saliva. He avoided touching them. You wouldn't pull your fingers back. Katsuki was giggling, which made him wheeze harder than before, his chest rising and falling rapidly. So he really was just out of breath. Well, goodbye now. He turned around and headed for the door without waiting for a response. He screwed the cap onto the vial and shoved it into his pocket, still avoiding the 2 wet fingers on his right hand. He pulled the door shut behind him and walked down the hallway. If anyone saw him, they'd assume he was running from something he feared. Midoriya. Oh, was he rude to you? I don't understand why that boy acts that way. Mitsuki appeared at his side, clasping a hand to his shoulder. No, he was fine. I'm just running late, that's all. He inched away. Oh, you're right, it's almost dark. Well, I won't keep you. Make it home safe. She didn't open the door this time, just returned upstairs. He tried to stop himself from bolting, which led to him stiffly shuffling out the door and almost forgetting to close it behind him. He didn't stop walking until the house was out of sight. Even then, he didn't slow. The sun was setting in front of him, golden and low, casting the dirt path in honey-colored light that made everything look worse. Sweeter. Stickier. He stared at his fingers. Still wet. Still warm. Still smelling faintly of him. He brought them to his mouth without thinking, just a flicker of a thought, like checking for a splinter. Maybe to understand. Maybe to undo something. He tasted salt first. Then sweetness. Then nothing at all. He froze. The second the taste hit his tongue, he pulled his fingers away and wiped them furiously on his robe. It wasn't enough. The fabric clung to the moisture. It just smeared it. His skin still remembered. He took off running. By the time he reached the small house he called his own, his shoulders were heaving, chest tight, not from exhaustion, but from panic. From shame. From something worse than either. He kicked the door shut behind him and rushed to the wash basin, fumbling the pitcher of water in his haste to pour. It sloshed across the counter. He grabbed the soap, thick and brown, and scrubbed. His fingers turned pink. Then red. He scrubbed harder. But the scent lingered. Not strong now, just faint, the way memories settle in skin. The way guilt does. He stared at his hands. Water dripping from his wrists, suds clinging to his knuckles. They didn't look like Priest's hands. They looked like someone else's. He went to bed immediately, stripping his ropes off and not even bothering to put on pajamas. He just flopped into his bed and buried his face into a pillow. It was Wednesday afternoon. School was out, and church was in session. Katsuki sat near the back, 2 rows from the very end. His mother and father sat closer to the front, away from him, at his insistence. "So, when are you gonna cut these off?" he whispered, tugging on the strands of hair framing the face of the girl next to him. She had a long bob with 2 front pieces that hung lower than the rest. "Never! Now quit it, you idiot!" She swatted his hand away in an even quieter tone. "Achiko." She was kind, and she and Katsuki hung out sometimes. She was 2 years older and usually spent time with Midoriya and his friends, but ever since his promotion, she had started drifting closer to him. From the outside, anyone would think they hated each other. But really, they were just comfortable. Achiko felt safe being rude to Katsuki and he was always rude. But it was nice knowing someone who shared his hatred for most people. They look like rat tails. Not cute at all. He pushed her hand away and rested both of his in his lap. "It's not about what you think is cute now, is it?" She huffed and glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "You go on findin' all kinds of ugly things cute." Her eyes drifted to someone in the room. Katsuki didn't bother to check who. He wasn't insulted by the comment. "But I'm right. You're not." He punched her arm rough. You'd think he'd go easy on a girl, but Achiko never got that treatment. Girls were usually tougher than him anyway. "You really ought to save it till after service." She punched him back and straightened her posture, pretending to pay attention. Katsuki huffed and mimicked her movements, zoning out on the back of the pew in front of him. He nodded when he heard clapping or laughter, Achiko doing the same. They were trying their best not to draw attention. A loud bell rang, and Katsuki didn't flinch. He was used to it by now, zoning out and then being jolted by the sound. The ringing happened often. He dealt with it constantly, but never mentioned it to his mother. She would just accuse him of faking. "Any church stuff on your plate today, or did they cut you loose?" Achiko didn't stand with the rest of the congregation when service ended. She waited, wondering if he would leave with her. "Still excused until I feel better. So I'm free." Katsuki was an acolyte, usually the one ringing that stupid bell that had probably wrecked his hearing. But since he had gotten sick, he had been excused. Only after collapsing the first time they asked him to stand too long. So when's this miracle recovery supposed to happen? She stood and stepped toward the carpet that led to the exit. "Maybe the end of the week? Late Sunday, so I can avoid teaching those brats." He followed beside her, keeping just enough distance to avoid brushing arms. "You're the only brat I know. Those kids are sweet, bless them." "Not quite." She held the door open for him and he let her. A small note turned in his head. He shouldn't be letting a girl hold the door for him. It didn't feel natural. But no matter how he framed it, Achiko always seemed to take the gentleman role in their friendship. Holding doors, fetching things, bringing him gifts. He truly didn't mind. Really, he didn't. But being completely unbothered by it felt just as wrong. "Thanks for not making a big deal out of it." She followed him outside, and they both stood there, contemplating where to go. "I am one to complain usually," he said, still undecided. "Well, when I help out or hold a door or whatever, you don't act all proud about it. Most guys do, and it's so tired. I like you. I like being nice to you." She sighed, long and drawn out. Then she started walking toward the gravel path that led to the animal pens. "So you like me? I didn't know I was special." Katsuki followed her lead, letting her walk ahead while he kicked at the rocks beneath his feet. "Not like that, no. But I don't rightly know you're different." She kept her eyes ahead. "Different?" He didn't stop following, but his stare sharpened. If his eyes could burn a hole in the back of her head, they would have. "It's not bad at all. You don't fuss when I do things for you, and you follow my lead, match my energy, that kind of thing. So I'm weird?" He kicked a rock into her leg. She paused, then kept going. "Yeah, of course you are. You don't really think either of us is normal, do ya? Even now, you're following me, not the other way, just like it should be." Achiko's voice cracked slightly at the end. "I guess I just like following you around and talking shit about people." "Watch your tongue. I'm an adult. Swearing shouldn't be so taboo. But seriously, I'm not different. You are." He rolled his eyes. Swearing felt natural, like breathing. He could count on one hand how many times he had heard someone else in the commune curse, besides his mom. She didn't respond. Just sighed. The smell of animals hit them both. Thick, earthy, manure and hay. It was the best and worst part of this place. The stench kept most people away, but for those who worked with the animals, it was home, even if it smelled like sheet. So, I see last time we were here entertained you enough? Katsuki finally stepped in front of her, making his way to a small stable on the east side of the field. What can I say? Your friends re just as weird as you. Besides, you said you'd take me back. She followed him toward the stable, the gravel path turning to packed dirt. Kaminari and his mom lived directly behind the stables. He hung out in them, taking good care of the horses. He was a true extrovert, got along with everyone. Perfect for animals. They stepped over to the stable, and there he was, yellowish blonde hair obviously unwashed and uncombed. He was petting a horse, or maybe a donkey. Katsuki wasn't exactly sure of the difference. Hey, Sparky, you skipped church? Katsuki lingered a few feet away. Kaminari jumped and turned around. Oh, it's just you. Yeah, my mom left me to feed the horses. He pointed to the animals behind him and smiled at Achiko. Hey, look who's back. He instinctively opened his arms to hug her before she stopped him. You're kind of sweaty. Kind of was an understatement, but he nodded and they both held their hands in the air. Air hug? All right, you right, I am kinda sweaty. You're both idiots. What is an air hug? Katsuki joined them, standing much closer to Achiko now that he knew no one was watching. I don't want to get all smelly. Not everyone smells like a bakery when they sweat. She rolled her eyes and poked Katsuki in the cheek. Of course, because everything about Katsuki was absolutely perfect and beautiful until he opened his mouth. Until he was finally able to speak his mind, then he was less. Katsuki pulls Kaminari into a hug. Unexpected but common. He'd learned the hard way to simply accept and smile along, and don't hug back because for some reason that annoys him. Although he makes sure to rub his hair in his face, coating it with sweat. Ah, you're so sweet, Katsuki. Like a cat. Kaminari loosely let his arms hang at his sides, letting Katsuki release him at his own pace. You smell like ponies, Katsuki muttered, letting the other blonde go. Never thought I'd hear you say a thing like ponies. Or hold a hug so close. Achiko laughed softly and twisted her hair around her finger. Jealous? You can get a hug too, rat tails. He didn't wait for a response and pulled her into an embrace. Not nearly as tight as the one before, but still intentional. She hugged him back and pulled them closer. This caused Katsuki to push her off, his face annoyed. He let her in, let her hug him back this time. Just for a second. Then pulled away fast like the contact burned. His face twisted like it had hurt him. EW. So affectionate. He scoffed and made a disgusted face. You hugged me, you did, she protested. Cat don't like it much when people hug him back. It's easier just to let it be. Kaminari smiled again and motioned for the two to follow him as he walked backward. Cat? I am not an animal. Then he added, I hope you fall. They followed him behind the stables and Kaminari did fall. He tripped over a rock he didn't see because, of course, he was walking backward. He yelped, catching himself, then turned around and waved Katsuki off. They reached an overhang at the back of the stable and sat down on an old bench. He watched the two of them laugh and elbow each other, their voices too loud for how close they stood. He was part of it, but sometimes it felt like they were standing in the sun and he was stuck in the shade. So, horses, huh? Yeah, I like horses. Means I don't gotta deal with all that church stuff. Silence. Both Katsuki and Achiko were on the path to join the church. By choice, yes, but that choice had been made before they fully understood what they were getting into. Not that sorry about that. Kaminari scrambled to fix the mood. Nah, you're good. If my mom told me as much about joinin' the church as yours did, I'd backed out too. Achiko adjusted her legs and leaned back on her hands. I think everyone would've, Katsuki added, then quickly changed the subject. So, what fun stuff do you get to do outside of church? He mashed his fingers together, not focusing on them. I kinda just spend most my day taking care of animals. Kaminari essayed his teeth and patted his legs, saying it like it wasn't the most boring thing in the world. Katsuki and Achiko hummed, nodding in sync. So interesting. She half smiled and kept nodding. I know. Sounds delightful, Katsuki added. Just 'cause y'all ain't into animals don't mean you gotta clown me for it. Kaminari pointed an accusatory finger between the two. I never said that. Nope. Not one time. Animals real great. The two looked at each other and nodded. They seemed to be in on some kind of joke only they understood. You think we hate animals? Katsuki tilted his head and put on his best sad and confused face. Quit it. I ain't say that. Kaminari kicked at the dirt. You always usin' that pretty face to get your way. Katsuki? Pretty? That ain't so. Achiko said it with complete confidence, like it was just a fact. I'm a man. How am I supposed to be pretty? Are you just upset you accused us of being animal-hating monsters? You always do that, ya think it was accidental, but nah. You know you got that pretty face. He pointed right between Katsuki's eyes. Achiko considered Kaminari's words. You do that actually. She turned her head between the two blondes. What are you two talking about? Katsuki rolled his eyes and ran his fingers through his hair. I don't want to be rude, but I notice the way your face changes when you're trying to get your way. She shrugged. See? Told ya I ain't the only one. You go usin' that pretty face to get what you want. Kaminari finally dropped his finger, looking satisfied. So what? I'm like some kind of temptation? Seriously. His face twisted into a scowl-pout hybrid. He stopped himself, realizing he was actually trying to look sad. Then forced the expression into a proper scowl. I dunno man. That's a lil harsh maybe, but I mean, it's kinda true. Kaminari shrugged again. He and Achiko exchanged the same uncertain look, as if they weren't sure what they said was completely right, but neither of them took it back. They heard footsteps. Katsuki instinctively jumped away from Achiko. She pulled her hands into her lap. Narihana. Kaminari's mother, another yellowish blonde identical to the boy. They could absolutely be twins. Ain't nothin', but ya mama she don't mind if y'all was rubbin' shoulders or more. She poked her head around the corner before her body. Kaminari's family was one of the less religious. His mother and father still attended service at least a few times a week, but they mainly stayed on the farm, avoiding other group activities. They discouraged Kaminari from becoming an acolyte or taking any role in the church PRD. They had waited until he was 10 to baptize him, and after they kept him home from service, using the excuse of him being an unusually active child. Then switching to him needing to look after animals. Cat, ain't it? I know that ain't your real name, but it's what my boy calls ya, and it's all I can be bothered to remember. Your mama's lookin' for ya real fierce one, that blonde lady, ain't she? Lord, she give me the chills. She nods agreeing with herself before he can confirm. Yeah, and it's Katsuki. Of course it is. Katsuki. Real nice. Glad to know it, for I go forgettin' again. She started wandering off toward the main house, already talking over her shoulder. Oh, she said she'd be waitin' on ya at home. Didn't sound too patient, neither. Best go on and don't keep her. Woman looked ready to spit fire. Katsuki stood, brushing dirt from his pants. She waved him off. With a half-laugh. I was startin' to think my boy done brought home another stray. Glad you still belong to somebody. My mother beckons for me. He exaggerated an upbeat voice waving by. Achiko and Kaminari have small bice and waved obviously disappointed. He found his way to the packed dirt path, then to gravel, taking a left, then another, and finally a sharp right. He'd memorized this route so many times it was almost automatic, like a map etched into his mind. You'd think it'd be easy to find your way across a big field, right? But sometimes, with his head full of ringing and the weight pressing down on his chest, it felt like the paths twisted just to confuse him. The sun was low now, casting long shadows over the fields, the warm air thick with the fading smell of hay and dust. Katsuki kicked at a loose stone, watching it tumble away without care. He should be glad to be going home, to a bed and quiet. But something about the wide open sky made him feel smaller, like he was lost, even when he wasn't. He wanted to shake the fatigue, push down the ache in his ears and chest, but it clung to him stubbornly. Maybe it was just the sickness, or maybe it was something deeper, something he wasn't ready to admit. The way Achiko and Kaminari talked, like they saw through him, it made him wonder if he was really so different after all. Home wasn't just a place. It was a promise. A place where he could finally be alone with all the noise inside his head, and maybe, just maybe, find a moment of peace before the world demanded more of him again. Izuku was replacing candles, a simple, tedious task. He moved from holder to holder, pulling out the old wax and setting in new ones. Occasionally, he grabbed a few more and tossed the used ones into the bin. He heard footsteps out of sync too. Maybe 3 people approaching. He ignored it. The sooner he finished, the sooner he'd be able to go home and relax. He tosses about 6 into the recycle bin. And you'll return Monday, correct? Early morning. Izuku heard from behind him. A deep voice. He recognized him as one of the bishops, although he doesn't remember having a conversation with the man. Yeah, that's what I said. This time he in fact recognized exactly who this voice was. Katsuki. You should be kinder, young man, it pays. He heard the bishop reply. I'm sorry. He paused. Right. Katsuki sounded sadder? Hesitant even. Izuku could imagine the exact face he was making right now. Those sad and a slight pout. He uses it whenever he wants them to feel bad for correcting him, as if he wasn't the one in the wrong. It's alright, you're still young. Things change. He can hear the bishop's steps retreating and Katsuki finally comes into view out of long hallway. His skin is slightly less tan, and for someone who was practically dying a few days ago. He actually glowing, he looked radiant. The light his face in just the right way to brighten his eyes. He hadn't ever noticed how red they were. They gleamed like rubies, wet and glowing. Adorned with a long thick pair of white lashes. Katsuki's skin was lighter than he remembered, almost delicate in the way it caught the light. It just made him look even more angelic. Why are you still here? Katsuki calls from across the room. I'm helping clean up. He responds and starts to walk over to where the fresh candles are. They still insist on changing those DMN things after every use? Idiot. He says quietly but loud enough for Izuku to hear. Izuku reached the box and picked up a candle that he stopped. That image of Katsuki's eyes so illuminated in the light ran through his mind. Can I ask you something? He stooped up straight and looked at the other boy. No. Izuku stopped. Freezing for a moment before deciding to ask anyways. Wait, why are your eyes red? He pointed to his own eyes for moments, squinting them. Katsuki sighed and titled his head. I said no. I'm just curious. He shrugged, hoping he'd answer the question. He went to grab more candles and silence filled the room. As he was standing straight again, Katsuki finally spoke. I'm like, albino. Or some shit like that. I wasn't paying attention. Oh, I thought albino people couldn't tan? Izuku was now completely intrigued and was thinking of hundreds of questions to ask. Apparently it varies, there's a bunch of different. I have some color. Why are you so dim and curious? Katsuki huffs. I just never met anyone albino. It seems kinda cool, so I'm curious. He mentally noted the questions he had, realizing he wouldn't get to ask them now. Well, stop it. And don't FNG tell anyone either. I don't want people thinking I'm so weirdo like you. He throws his hands up and turns to leave. He paused for a moment, wondering if Izuku had anything else to say before making his way out the door. Izuku hadn't realized how obvious it was until now. No one had white hair and red eyes, at least, not without it meaning something. In dim light, Katsuki's eyes looked blue. But when you were close, really close, you saw it. The red pupil, the soft blue ring centered around it, the surrounding outer red ring. The way they caught light like gems. Maybe that was normal for people with albinism. He didn't know. But it looked beautiful. A cracking sound came from his hand. Oh dash, he opened his hand to find a split candle. He sighed and tossed it, going back to his routine, although every couple minutes he mind drifted back to Katsuki, and another candle split. He's finally able to go home and is thankful taking out the trash is someone else's job. He clutched the box of candles and slipped out of the church quickly. He took a deep breath once he was finally outside. The cool air was a blessing. He began to follow the gravel path leading to his house when someone called for him. Izuku! Achiko came running behind him. She slapped a hand over his shoulder when he met him. Hey! He took a minute to catch her breath. Hey, what's with the rush? He turned his head to her. "You wanna hang out?" She stood straight and let him go, taking a few steps back. "Yeah, but maybe after I change?" He pulled at his collar. "Kinda feel like I've been sweating candles all day." No, dash, she waves both hands in front of her face. "Tonight. Later. Just me, Kaminari, and Shoto." He clasped her hand together and let them fall in front of her. He considered he shouldn't be sneaking out, but also it's been a while since he was able to hang out with his friends. He blinked. "Why at night?" He scratched the back of his neck. "And when did you and Kaminari become so close? And why not invite Ida?" "Why dash?" "Okay," she smiled, obviously overwhelmed. "I know you like to ramble, but geez. Ida just try to stop us. Kaminari's cool, and it's just more fun when something's a little dangerous." She let her hands fall to her side, smiling softly awaiting an answer. Izuku just nodded, coming up with answers to his own unsaid words. Then he left walking down the path and waving by. "Wait," she called as he walked away. "That a yes or no?" Oh, he forgot to respond. "Yeah. I'll be there, just come get me I guess." "I'll send Shoto." She walks in the opposite direction. When Izuku is finally home he takes off his clothes in the foyer, tossing them in a laundry basket he kept by the door. He'd moved out of his mother's a while ago. Sure, it was just next door, but he still valued the little bit of privacy it gave him. He went straight to the bathroom and turned the shower on, waiting for it to heat. Sitting on the edge of the tub, he let the cold water run down over his legs. He waited there for a few minutes. The water got warmer, but not warm enough. So he just sat, thinking about. He suddenly remembered the candle under the sink. The one Katsuki gave him for Christmas. Well, technically Mitsuki had bought it. He was pretty sure she'd even signed Katsuki's name on the card. But still. He stood up and knelt by the sink, rooting through everything shoved under there. Empty shampoo bottles, old razors, dusty boxes he didn't even remember putting in. Finally, his hand closed around cool glass. He pulled the candle out. Salted caramel. He pretended like he didn't remember the scent. Like he didn't know exactly what it smelled like. Like he hadn't already thought about Katsuki the first time he opened it. And every time since. He found a lighter shoved in the back and made a face, mentally noting he absolutely needed to clean his bathroom out. Who keeps lighters in the bathroom? He lit the candle and set it on the toilet lid, as close to the tub as he could get it without risking a dunk. At first, nothing. He sniffed again. "Come on," he muttered, watching the little flame flicker. "You're just wax and oil, you can't lose your smell that fast." He ignored the fact it had been months since Christmas. That he'd told Mitsuki he burned it already. That he hadn't not once because he'd wanted to save it. He didn't know why. He sat back on the tub again. Steam slowly fogged the mirror. After about 5 minutes, the bathroom was so muggy he had to open the door. Still no scent. He made a face and turned toward the shower, stepping in. "That's not very nice," he muttered under his breath, side-eyeing the candle. He immediately shoved his head under the water. Despite that fact it was scorching hot, he didn't change the temperature. He let the steam coat him and grabbed a nameless shampoo bottle. Some homemade stuff his mother gave him and insisted he use for his curls. Well, his hair did get pretty curly when he actually used all the stuff she bought him. Or really just the one leave-in product. Even that felt too complicated most days. So most days he ended up a frizzy mess. He scrubbed his scalp, relaxing its sensation. This is great. He coats the ends of his in shampoo and spends several minutes shaping it into styles. First a mohawk, then spikes, then some style that were so horrendous he must be the first to try it. After laughing at himself in the reflection on his shower head, he finally rinsed his hair and went to reach for the matching homemade conditioner and then he smelled it. Faint but unmistakable. That warm, sweet scent. His stomach sank. He regretted even lighting the candle now. The fair scent of caramel filled his bathroom. He regretted even thinking about the candle entirely now. Why do you work now? When I focused on something else. He sighs dramatically and wipes his palms on his face. Seriously? Then Izuku remembers. It's a candle, it can't hear you or choose to do anything. He shakes his head. What am I talking to a candle again? The scent was stronger now. It had gone from a whisper to something undeniable. The cinnamon from his shampoo had been completely drowned out. Great. I'm obsessed with a candle. I'm gonna be one of those weird guys. Candle boy. He grabbed the conditioner and slathered his hair in it. He tried his best to ignore the scent, but he never blew out the candle. But no matter how hard he tried, every time he took a breath and caramel scent entered his lungs, he thought of Katsuki. His beautiful ruby eyes, glassy and staring right at him. His muscular chest and pretty pink eye. No dash, Izuku pinched himself. He dreaming right? He didn't even look at Katsuki's nipples. Not even a glance. So why could he recall them perfectly? And he really wanted to. No. I don't want to do anything like that at all. He rinses hair and refuses to close his eyes again. I'm not thinking about him for any reason. This is just random. He rinses his hair for a long time. The conditioner is far down the drain, but for some reason keeping his brain from thinking of Katsuki takes a lot of work. Izuku finally closed his eyes, realizing it's uncomfortable to not blink for a long period of time. He didn't think of anything too bad, mainly just how suffocating a bathroom is without proper airflow. He sat at the end of the tub. It quite tiring standing completely still for such a long time. The smell was strong. With nowhere for the air to it just built up. He pulled his knees to chest and relaxed. Something he hadn't done since getting home. He starts tapping his foot. Well, he bites his bottom lip, look down. No better time than the present, huh? He reaches down and hesitated. This has nothing to with think about Katsuki? It doesn't. He nods to himself and curls his finger around his pee-pee. He isn't hard yet, which he takes as good sign since thinking about Katsuki show. Just stop thinking about him completely. He leans his head and tightens his grip. He starts slowly, taking a few moments in between each slide of his hand. This is fine. His breath picks up. He lets his eyes finally shut, pressing his head into the tile wall behind it. Every thought he tried to push back hit him like a truck. Those gorgeous eyes stared up at him, wide and unblinking, framed by thick white lashes that looked too delicate to belong to someone like him. His lips, slightly parted, were the softest shade of pink, damp like he'd just liked them. His cheeks were flushed, warm with something that made Izuku's stomach twist. It looked too beautiful. It wasn't fair. Toga. Toga squeezed her eyes shut, wanting to sleep in for just a little longer. Toga, wake up. She feels her body being shaken. She tries not to laugh. I see you smiling, get up. Her blanket is ripped from her. She lets out a small giggle, eyes still shut. Himiko. It's late. A hand grabs her leg and pulls her across the bed. Hey. She yelps, grabbing a pillow. Oh, now you're awake. Dabi drops her foot and tosses her blanket back into the bed. I just wanted a little extra sleep. She pulls her blanket over her head. You already had extra sleep. He pulls it off her for a second time. She pouts, putting on her best puppy dog face, and holds a pillow to her chest. I will smite you. Dabi crosses his arms and stares at the girl, completely unmoved by her display. Fine. She chucked the pillow at his head and slid to the edge of the bed, hands on her knees. He grabbed her by the arm and yanked her to her feet. Shower. You're just gonna crawl back in bed once I leave. Okay. She stomped toward the bathroom and slams the door behind her. You forgetting something? The door cracked back open. Toga snatched a towel and washcloth from the hallway closet. Clothes? He added, gesturing toward her dresser painted pastel pink with weird little creatures only she understood. Toga glared. She stomped over, rummaged through her drawers, and left a war zone of scattered outfits in her wake. She didn't say a word as she grabbed her final items and shut the bathroom door with a second slam. Have a magical time, Dobby muttered to himself, heading toward the kitchen. You're cooking? Dobby entered the kitchen to see Tamura at the stove, stirring something with a cinnamon smell. No, I'm just standing here for fun, he replies, setting down the spoon on the edge of the pot. Make any for me? He walks over to the stove and peeks into the pot. Tamura steps back instantly and scratches his arm. No. But all this is for you? He points to the 2 serving plates filled with bacon and eggs on the counter. It's not for you. He starts scratching his arm harder and stares a hole into the floor. Never mind, I don't want your skin food. He steps back and takes the spoon with him. Can you get the dishes out? Tamura grabs another wooden spoon mismatched and went back to stirring like Dobby wasn't there. But I don't get to eat any? Still not looking up, Tamura gave a short nod. Correct. Dobby chuckled and grabbed 3 bowls from the cabinet anyway, sliding them onto the island like it was his kitchen. Tamura set the plates down on the island and filled each bowl with oatmeal. Dobby circled around and dropped into a seat across from him. You sure you didn't poison us? Dobby dips a small spoon into his bowl. Where's Toga? Tamura didn't look back, just dumped the pans and utensils into the sink. Shower. Dobby shoveled food into his mouth like he hadn't eaten in weeks. Which, technically, he hadn't. Shower. He walks over to the counter island and pulls the bowl of oatmeal from Dobby. Give it back. Dobby reaches for the bowl, but Tamura pulls it off the counter. I told you she shouldn't shower in the morning. Her food's gonna get cold. He set the bowl down on the far counter like it offended him. What do you care? You're too busy kissing his butt to notice anything. Dobby stood and snatched his bowl back. I'm not sking up to anyone. Tamura leaves the kitchen before Dobby could answer. Dramatic much? Dobby stuffed a huge bite of oatmeal into his mouth and kept eating like nothing happened. She beamed, practically skipping to the island. She scooped a big helping of scrambled eggs and bacon into a bowl, but made sure to leave some behind. Take the rest, Dobby muttered through a mouthful. Toga shook her head, already biting into a strip of bacon. Tamura gets some too. It's not just us. She slid the leftovers into a container and stuffed it in the fridge. He's the one who left it out, Dobby grumbled, pushing back from the island. Pretty sure he's hiding food in his room anyway. Don't take it. Toga snapped, eyes wide. Relax, princess. I'm just getting some juice. Dobby pulled a carton from the fridge and set it on the counter, opening a cabinet for a cup. Toga watched him warily, then went back to eating, taking deliberate, drawn-out bites. He lives here too, you know, she said between chews. Doesn't make a difference. I still don't like him. Dobby sipped his apple juice. Maybe you should. I'm tired of you two and your different shades of mean. Dobby nodded solemnly. Great analysis, Dr. Himiko. You have no idea what he does f-. Don't know. Don't care. Simple as that. Dobby shrugged and carried his drink and food out of the kitchen. Toga finished eating, stacked her bowl in the sink, and turned on the tap. I'll do them. You have Sunday school. Toga whipped around. Tamura was standing right behind her. You scared me. She shoved him lightly, then frowned. And I can do them. You cooked. She turned back to the sink, but Tamura leaned over and turned off the faucet. You don't need to clean up after me. Go. His voice was even, but not unkind. He didn't touch her, just stood there waiting. But I insist. He gestured toward the door. Toga hesitated, then nodded. I'll be back. I'll help clean up then, she chirped, slipping on her shoes and flashing him a small smile as she left. She already gone? Dobby poked his head into the kitchen. Your turn to do the dishes. I cooked. Tamura didn't look at him. Dobby grimaced. You just told her she had to go. She's almost late. Tamura nodded at the clock, then pointed to Dobby. Then the sink. A long pause. You're so caring. Dobby gritted it out like an insult. Tamura left the kitchen and sank onto the couch, ignoring him completely like Dobby was just noise in the room. When Toga finally arrives back home, the house is spotless. Completely clean head to toe, and there's nothing for her to help with. slides off her shoes and heads to the kitchen. She opens the fridge. The only thing inside is the breakfast leftovers and a carton of milk. Dabi must have finished the juice, at least I have milk. She poured herself 2 full cups and drank them one after the other. She left a little in the carton, barely enough for 1 full cup, but she figured that was fine. Only one other person liked milk in the house, and he hadn't even had breakfast yet. Besides the lights she turned, all the others were off. Doors shut, and the sound of Dabi snoring could be faintly heard. I guess I'm the only one up. She walks the hall to her bedroom. The door creaked open and froze mid-step. Her room was spotless. The clothes, the blankets, the mountain of random crap that had once swallowed her floor folded, tucked away, cleared. Her eyes widened. Great! She launched herself face first onto the bed. She sat in silence for a little while. Her shoes were off, so she really had no other reason to get up. Himiko, a soft but raspy voice called out to her. She sat up. Yes. She turned herself around. Tamura was standing in her room. Hold a bowl. What's that? She points to the bowl. Dinner. He walks over to her bed and holds the bowl out. You didn't eat it, you can't just drink milk. She stands up and looks at what's inside the bowl. You're giving me your breakfast? She asked, frowning a little as she pushed the bowl back toward him. You have to eat it. I already had some. I made more for dinner. He holds out the bowl. Promise. Of course. He puts the bowl right into her hands and takes a seat on the floor. How was your day? He picks at the carpet fibers. It was great. She took a bite of oatmeal. I met this girl, she was pretty curious. She chewed for much longer than necessary. Curious. He looks up. Yeah, she asked me about the boys I like. She took a few more bites from the bowl. The boys you like? Yeah, it was weird, but she was nice about it. She sets the bowl on the floor in front of her bed. She's very kind, actually. Well, did you tell her what kind of boys you like? Tamura switches to picking at the free hanging strings in her blanket. Yeah, Dash. You never told me that. I thought we were best friends. His face doesn't look sad, but voice wavers slightly. Oh, you're right, I didn't. She rubs hands together, thinking of what to say next. I like sweet boys. The ones who help everyone do stuff no matter what. She nods at her own explanation. And ones who are strong. She looks at Tamura, who's just staring into the distance. That sounds like you, he says before switching from picking at stray threads to scratching his leg. I don't know. But what about you? She pauses, considering if she really wants to ask. What kind of girls do you like? She looks down at Tamura and smiles. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. After a beat, he said flatly, I don't. You don't? She tilts her head. No. I don't think I've ever thought about it. He goes back to scratching on his leg. Oh, well, have you thought about boys? He kicked him in the knee, giggling. No. No, Dash. He squints at Toga. Why would you say that? He scoots back. It's not bad. The things you told me, Dash. I just never thought about anything like that. He cuts her off, voice cracking. Not even once? Toga took the opportunity to change the subject. That kind of stuff doesn't feel real to me. He goes back to being calm, leaning his bed onto her bed. Toga tilts her head again, quieter now. Could be. If you tried. He doesn't respond, just stares at the half-eaten bowl of food. Toga waited for a response. It never came. Eventually Tamura took the bowl and left. Good night. She called after him before shutting her own bedroom door. So where have you been? Mitsuki called from the kitchen as the front door opened. Just with some friends. Nothing important. He stepped inside and slid off his shoes, making sure to place them neatly on the mat. And you didn't think to tell me? I figured you'd be home way sooner. She pushed the bowl of chopped vegetables to the side. You can't just disappear and not say where you're going. Well, I did. He walked toward the stairs and had just reached the first step when he heard her leave the kitchen. Where the f do you think you're going? She snapped, arms crossed tight. To shower. That illegal now. He turned to face her. He hated when she talked like that, like she was trying to catch him in a lie before he'd even said one. I said nothing important happened. His tone was flat, pushed through his teeth more than spoken. He didn't bother to lift his eyes. You smell like you've been rolling around in dirt, you dash. Nothing happened, he snapped, louder this time. Not one single concerning event. At all. His voice echoed just enough to make it worse. The hallway felt tighter now, like the walls were paying attention. Don't cut me off, she barked. And don't talk to me like that. You can't do whatever the F you want, Katsuki. He didn't argue. Just nodded, once. Maybe too slow. Maybe too fast. He wasn't sure which would piss her off more. His hands were still damp from the heat outside. He rubbed them down the sides of his pants, pretending it was about the sweat, not nerves. Not shame. Not anything. Don't you mean whoever I want? Katsuki snapped, the words coming faster than he meant them to. His voice cracked not in sound, but in control. It was the first time he let the anger fully show in his face. Not the regular annoyance, not the everyday frustration. Real anger. Real heat. Mitsuki narrowed her eyes. Excuse me? He could have backed down. Could have muttered something and walked away. But the pressure in his chest was too high now. It had to go somewhere. I know what you think, he said, taking a step forward. I'm not an idiot. All your questions, all your prying. You think I'm just throwing myself around? There was a pause. Short, but not silent. The refrigerator hummed from the kitchen. A clock ticked somewhere in the background. I don't know what to think, she said finally, slow and deliberate. Her mouth twisted like the words tasted wrong even before she said them. You carry yourself like dash, she hesitated, like she still had time to choose something softer. But she didn't. A slot. It landed between them like something physical. Heavy. Unfixable. Katsuki laughed. A bitter sound, barely more than an exhale. Wow. He nodded, lips tight. Congratulations. You got it off your chest. Can I go now? He turned, already pulling away like her words hadn't hit. But they had. Right in the center. I'm only trying to protect you. Great. He stopped and turned just enough to look at her, one hand pointing up the stairs, the other hanging limp at his side. Can I go be protected in the shower? His head tilted, eyes blank, not bored, not smug, just done. And then silence again. Not the soft kind. The ugly kind. The kind that's full of things neither of them wanted to say out loud. He spent the night in his room. The light stayed off downstairs. His mother never called him for dinner, not even once. And she wondered why he was always sick. He'd made the mistake once of going down on his own. He was told to make his own dinner. Simple enough, right? But he wasn't allowed to use anything that belonged to her, not even a DMN knife. He'd opened the drawer and got a look like he'd tried to steal something. Now he didn't bother. He rolled from one side of the bed to the other, freshly showered. His hair was still wet, soaking into the pillowcase, cold against the side of his face. He was thinking about Izuku. Specifically Izuku's fingers, shiny with oil, pressed gently into his mouth. Like feeding him was something sacred. It was stupid. And soft. But it was one of his favorite things that had ever happened. Maybe his favorite PRD. He stuffs his face into a pillow. F-. He muttered. It was stupid, literally just oil and fingers, and he couldn't stop think about it. It was driving him crazy every few seconds that feeling came, the feeling of salvia dripping down his lips, fingers drawing back. He ripped his face up from the pillow, catching his breath. He rolled over again, for the 100th time. He shouldn't be thinking about this. He shouldn't have that a-hole who he hated in his brain. Who he'd practically dedicated his life to outshining. Been absolutely deplorable to at every turn. A small pang hit his window. He ignored it. Then it happened again. The F-. He sat up. And it happened again. Realization hit him that obviously someone was throwing something at his window. He jumped up and ran to the window and ripped it open. A rock hit him in the chest. And fell to the floor. That FNG hurt. He mumbled and pushed his body out the window. Hi. Shoto, a boy with fiery ginger hair and a big skunk stripe in the front. Hi. Katsuki responded, hanging out the window. Hurry it up and get on down here. Achiko called out. She was standing much closer to the house, which was why he missed her. So, Jump down and die, huh? He raised an eyebrow at the two. Come on now, brought you a friend and everything. She point to Shoto, who waves politely. Who else? What's it matter? Just come on, would ya? He pressed her hands together and raised them up towards him. If you loved me half as much as you act like you do, you'd have jumped the second you saw me. Fine. He sighs and pulls himself back in. Why dash? Shut it, I'm coming. He pushes the window fully open and turns around. Katsuki makes sure to lock his door in case his other came in. He hooked a leg around the windowsill and dragged the other over. He's hanging out of the window, back slanted, pressing against the window. If I die, I hope I take you two with me. He maneuvers himself to stand on the windowsill with his tiptoes. He's facing the window, gripping the top of it. What in the world are you doing? Achiko calls out in her most hushed whisper. Closing. He pushes the window shut. This fing sheet. He throws his arms back and almost falls. Sheet. He catches himself, breathing heavily. All right, escape artist, watch yourself now. Achiko stepped back from the house, taking up a spot next to Shoto. It took him a good 2 minutes to finally face forward. He pushes himself off, landing on his hands and knees. Shoto holds out hand and Katsuki smacks it away. I don't need help. He pushes himself up. Achiko pulls Shoto away and leads the two into the cornfield beside Katsuki's house. They walk through corn for what seems like hours. Bugs are constantly nipping at their feet. Are we there yet? I don't appreciate walking through all this dirt. Katsuki swats a bug near his face. Well, maybe you shouldn't have forgotten your shoes. Or your shirt. Or your dash. I know I don't need lectured by you. He huffed. Ain't nobody lecturing you, Achiko replied, kicking the toe of one sneaker against the other. I didn't tell you to come out here all unprepared. That's on you. You absolutely did. This is it. Shoto point to Rocky Creek in distance. A small warm light is coming from between two large rocks. And the running provides a nice cooling effect over the three. Are you guys trying to kill me? No, we just wanted to have some fun, Achiko called back, reaching for Shoto's arm and guiding him toward the shore. Come on now, you ain't gonna die. What the F are these idiots thinking? Katsuki says to himself as he follows the two. I should be asleep. But, mister, I go to bed at 7 sharp every night. I maintain a good sleep schedule. That's not bad, Katsuki muttered, stepping carefully. He tried his best to avoid the slimiest rocks barefoot and said. Dirt had turned to thick mud and wedged itself between his toes. He tried to ignore the feeling. What's bad is you missin' out on livin', Achiko called gently, slipping behind one of the big rocks the warm light reflected off. She vanished out of sight. Shoto followed without a word, smooth and quiet. Katsuki used both hands to push himself up and over the rock, feet caked in mud. He dropped down on the other side and winced when he hit a sharp edge. Great, he gritted, turning toward Achiko. He froze. Sitting directly in front of him were Kaminari and Izuku, both too wrapped up in whatever they were doing to notice him. You didn't say dash. I'm doing ya a favor, Achiko whispered and waved him on. She stepped ahead and greeted the boys warmly. Hey y'all. Hey cat, Kaminari grinned then winced after looking down. Where your shoes at? He pointed at Katsuki's feet, brows up. Someone didn't warn me we'd be fucking hiking. Katsuki shot a glare in Achiko's direction, then tried flicking the gunk off his feet. It didn't work. I'm gonna rinse off in the creek. He stomped toward the water, choosing a semi-hidden spot behind a low-hanging tree. You wouldn't see him unless you looked on purpose. He seems rude, Shoto said, lowering himself next to Kaminari. His voice was calm, quiet, slightly distant. Not like you. You seem friendly. Kaminari beamed. Thanks, dude. I try. You're welcome. Did you have to invite him? Izuku leaned toward Achiko, voice low. Seriously? Invite who? You know who? He doesn't even have shoes, Achiko. He could have just stayed home. Izuku picked up a flat rock and turned it over in his fingers, his lips pressing together. The two of y'all could at least try getting along, she murmured, rubbing a slow, gentle circle on his back. I won't let him say a word sideways at you, all right? Thanks, Izuku mumbled. He kept his eyes on the stone, but let her keep rubbing. Meanwhile, Kaminari had launched into a story something loud, ridiculous, and just barely funny. Shoto nodded along, polite, but his gaze occasionally drifted to the creek trying to find where Katsuki had disappeared to. Katsuki picked the driest, flattest rock he could find and lowered himself onto it with a sigh, knees bent and arms draped across them. He dipped his feet into the creek, the cold water biting at first, but not unwelcome. It swept over the mud caked between his toes, easing it loose bit by bit. He kept still, barely breathing, watching the ripples fan out from his ankles. A small fish darted into view, silvery and fast, then another, smaller and slower, trailing the first like a nervous shadow. A third joined them this one boulder. It nudged the side of his foot, then nibbled at the grime clinging to his skin. Katsuki twitched, then giggled. A real, startled giggle, so quiet it surprised even him. His shoulders hunched reflexively, like he could hide it from himself. But when the third fish made another pass and brushed along the arch of his foot, he laughed again. Once his feet felt bare, he shook them, scaring off the fish before pulling them out, knees to his chest. He took a deep breath to stop laughing. Looking down, he picked off several pieces of leftover dirt. Useless fish. He whispered to himself. Hi. Katsuki jumped, almost falling flat on his back. What the F dash? Shoto appeared from the shadows like some kind of supervillain. Didn't mean to startle you. His voice was flat monotone, it matched his face perfectly. So you just appear like a weirdo when someone's alone? He flicked dirt into Shoto's direction. Him and Shoto weren't exactly friends, maybe acquaintances. He'd seen him around, knew his name, but that was it. Shoto looks at the water, then back to the blonde that he walks over and sits down facing Katsuki. Your feet are kinda bony. He nods to himself. You're weird as F dash dot. Katsuki goes back to getting dirt off his feet, rubbing it off on the rocks. Why no shoes? Shoto glanced at Katsuki's feet, though his eyes didn't really leave Katsuki's face. Because this was spontaneous. He spots cleaning his feet and pulls an annoyed face at the boy. Shoto paused, thought you'd be asleep by now. He tries to add more, but Katsuki interrupts. Why are you so dim and curious? He twisted his face into a scowl. Shoto sighed and looked away. Don't sigh at me. Answer my question. You different. Haven't really met anyone like you. He sighs again, obviously on purpose. You're quite intense, you know that? I'm not FNG intense. You're just annoying. He finally stood up, slipping, almost falling. Are yo dash? F off. Katsuki snapped, catching his balance. He swiped the hair out of his face and stomped walked carefully back toward the others. Well, look at you, Achiko drawled, a little smile on her face. All cleaned up. I thought maybe you, wouldn't come back. Not that I didn't want you to, just that dash. He waved a hand like that might untangle the sentence. Never mind. You're here. Shh. Katsuki nods lightly and avoids looking Izuku in the eyes. He sits next to Achiko. Shoto eventually returned to group, but he wasn't alone. A small pale blonde girl followed behind him. I found a girl. He steps to side, present the girl as if she was an astonishing prize. It was Toga. Somewhere between coming home and dinner, she remembered Achiko's talk of sneaking and decided to join. You're Toga, right? We met earlier today. Achiko stood up and walked toward Toga, arms open like she was ready to hug her. Her voice was warm, laced with that honey-soft drawl. She really just invited anyone, Izuku muttered, folding his arms. Yeah. Anyone, Katsuki echoed, turning his head sharply toward him. Toga giggled softly and leaned into Achiko's half-hug, her gaze flitting from face to face like she was drinking in the moment. I brought snacks, she chirped, holding up a plastic bag of candy that definitely wasn't hers. Figured if I'm crashin' your little secret hangout, I oughta bring something. Ain't nobody crashin' nothin', Achiko said with a sweet little shrug, though her eyes flicked over to Izuku. Katsuki snorted and looked away. Izuku shifted on his feet, awkward. Sorry. That was rude. I just wasn't expectin' more people, that's all. Toga didn't seem to mind. She dropped down beside Shoto like she'd always belonged there. More people make it more fun. Right? Shoto shrugged. Didn't move. Silence hovered for a beat. So we just sitting around waitin' to get caught? Katsuki said, his voice sharp with boredom. We're hangin' out, Achiko replied, pulling gently at a blade of grass. You're allowed to just be here, you know. Can we light something on fire? Toga asked, completely serious. No, Izuku, Achiko, and Shoto all said at the same time. Why not? Katsuki leaned forward, suddenly way too interested. He pointed at Toga. You wanna? Izuku sat forward, alarmed. That is a horrible idea, we dash. Whatever, stuck up. Katsuki stood and offered Toga his hand. You seem fun. You in? She grinned and took his hand. I'm Toga. She dug into her pocket and pulled out a lighter. This good? Absolutely not. The two of y'all cannot light anything on fire, Achiko said, stepping between them. You're like horrible twins. She reached for the lighter, but Toga slipped it to Katsuki, who held it over his head like a kid playing keep away. No way. You dragged me out here and now I can't have fun? You're the horrible one. Katsuki took Toga by the wrist and led her away from the creek, toward the trees. Once they reached a patch of dry grass, he let her go. So, we should toss whatever we light down there. He pointed toward where the rest of the group was. Won't that kill them? Toga asked with genuine curiosity. Probably not. But I'd murder him if I could. Katsuki grabbed a handful of dry leaves and dropped them in a pile. Toga mimicked him, grabbing twigs and bits of brush. You're cool, she said with a bright smile. I like you too. You're a weird little pyro though, he muttered, tossing in a final stick. Aren't you the same as me? She asked, settling down across from him. He didn't answer, just lit the pile and sat across from her. You guys can't start a fire. Izuku rushed over, trying to stomp it out. Katsuki caught his foot with a hand beneath it. We already did. Izuku hesitated, then let his foot drop beside the fire. You're Izuku, right? Toga smiled, scooting closer to him. Oh yeah, I am. You're Toga, right? He scratched the back of his neck. Yeah. You're pretty cute. Poked his leg. I don't think anyone's ever said that to me. Not like that. Well, now someone has. She tilted her head. And I mean it. He wasn't sure what to do with that. He glanced toward the fire, toward Katsuki. What? Nothing dash. Why would you look at me after that? He scowls. Voice dropping with anger. Maybe he wants you to say he's pretty too? Toga peeks around the fire looking at Katsuki. And points to Izuku. Well, I'm not. He glared at Toga. Why dash? Just say it, she beamed. You're really pushy. And you're very stubborn. He's pretty, says he not. He looks to Izuku. And smile at him. He isn't ugly. Katsuki stands up. The two of you can have fun with whatever this is. He walks back to the group of people. I was just starting to like him. Toga slaps her hands onto the floor. Weren't you as well? She pokes Izuku again. Oh, yeah, I guess Katsuki's just difficult. He sits down next to Toga. She's smiling at him. She hasn't stopped smiling once. She doesn't seem to mind how close she is to fire. It lights up her eyes in a way that makes them look almost yellow. He doesn't seem difficult. We seem similar. I like him. She nods to herself. And awaits Izuku's response. You talk quite fast. Izuku laughs lightly to fill the silence that follows. Toga nods and stops talking. She just stares at the fire. A few bits crackle close to face, but she doesn't flinch. Did I offend you? I'm sorry, I can talk quite fast too sometimes. I didn't mean to. He places his hands into his lap. Izuku watches her. She's not even blinking, just staring into the fire like it's a friend. Do you ever stop smiling? He asks quietly. Nope. She tilts her head. Does it bother you? No, he says quickly. I don't really know what you're thinking. I'm thinking you're cute. Still. She kicks her feet out in front of her, grinning wider. So does he, that's why he looks at you like that. She points to Katsuki who's taking to Shoto in the distance. I wouldn't say that. Izuku starts fiddling with his fingers. One time Tamura, he's my friend, I saw him look at someone like that and he said that's because he thought he was cute. And that's how he looks at you. Izuku barely understood what Toga said, she had rattled it off extremely fast. But he did catch the last part. He looks at you. He never considered Katsuki had ever actually looked at him. He was like green. Toga added. What dash? Izuku turned to her, she was still smiling. The guy I was talking about, were you listening? Toga slowly slid her key into the door, unlocking it as quietly as she could. She opened it just wide enough to squeeze through, slipping in sideways like that might keep her from being noticed. It's 5 am, Toga. Oh. Well, hello, Magna. Toga shut the door behind her and slid off her shoes one by one. Where were you? Magna sat on the couch, jacket still on, shoes untouched. The couch was old, it was there longer than Toga. Each cushion was delicately wrapped in a differ-patterned blanket to hide the stains. A few hand-crocheted pillows filled with yarn scraps sat on one end. Toga had taken up the hobby one summer, then was unable to continue as she had to use leftover yarn to actually stuff the pillows. Were you looking for me? Toga plopped down beside her. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to worry you. She threw her arms around Magna in a hug. You should apologize to Tamura and Twice. They're the ones who freaked out. Magna gently ran her fingers through Toga's hair. Seriously? Where are they? Toga leaned into the touch. Tamura's taking one of those weird milky food baths, and Twice went out looking for you. I'm sorry, she repeated, voice softer this time. I didn't mean to worry everyone. But you all shouldn't be so concerned. I can handle myself. She looked up at Magna, who looked absolutely drained. It's not you we're worried about messing up. And you are absolutely in trouble for this. Magna stopped combing through her hair and leaned back against the couch. It is beyond bedtime, Toga. She gave Toga a light push by the shoulders. I'll see you in the morning. Go sleep. Toga nodded and headed off to her bedroom, waving as she walked away. She stopped in front of the bathroom. A soft dripping sound echoed through the door. Tamura's in the bath, right? Did he leave the water running? She leaned in, ear against the door. No splashing. No shifting. Just dripping. Toga, go to your room, please. Dabi's voice startled her. He placed a firm hand on her shoulder and pulled her away from the door. What's wrong? He asked, catching the look on her face. The water's just dripping, she said slowly, eyes flicking toward the door. Is Dash? Go. Right now. Go to your room. His voice dropped. She frowned, confused and clearly about to argue. I know I'm in trouble, B Dash. Just FNG go. He turned her around by the shoulders, right now. He followed by shoving her into her room. Do not come out. The door slammed shut behind her. That's not fair, she shouted through it. But she didn't try to open it again. Dabi twisted the bathroom door handle, locked. Where the spare key? The kitchen. Dabi bolts into the kitchen. Ripping drawers open, searching for the key. What? Mange says from the couch. The key. The bathroom, he's in there, and Dash doesn't even process exactly what he's saying before pulls out a bronze key from bottom a utensil drawer. What Dash? Dabi is already gone, unlocking the bathroom as fast as he possibly can. It slowly swings itself open. It creaks lightly. Mange gets up from the couch and is standing in the doorway as Dabi walks into the bathroom. The floor was flooded with red water, swirling and still. The tub's water was pinkish, oats floating on the surface. Tamura was slumped against the tiled wall of the tub, his head tilted to one side. There was no water in the sink. Just blood. And a small knife. Tamura, Dabi said, frozen mid-step. No answer. Toga's bedroom door creaked open. Toga! Stay in your room. Magna was already on her, blocking the opening. Get up, Dabi said, now standing beside the tub. Nothing. No response. No flinch. Dabi reached down, grabbed a handful of Tamura's hair, and pulled his head up. Tamura blinked. Then recoiled fast, gripping his scalp. The F-Dobby? Can't I bathe in peace? He muttered, rubbing his head. Dobby dropped into a sit, exhaling. What are you doing? Nothing. Nothing? There's blood in the sink, blood in the bath, and your skin's so white I can see the veins. I was just taking a bath. Tamura leaned back again, draping his arms over the edges of the tub. Can you get out? Toga's back. She tried to come in here. I locked the door, Tamura said blankly. And since when has that ever stopped her? The door's wide open. She's worried about you. Tamura didn't answer. He just shifted slightly, eyes fluttering closed. She wants to come in, Dobby added, pointing toward the hall. Close the door. I'll get out. Dobby nodded and gently shut the door but stayed inside. Why is he closing the door? Toga whined, still trying to peek past Magna. It's none of your business, Himiko. Go to bed. Magna used one palm to shove her face back into her room. Everything is fine. Toga stumbled, arms flailing. Magna slammed the door shut and turned the hallway lock installed for moments just like this. We shouldn't even have this, Magna muttered, rubbing her temples before flopping back onto the couch. Toga rummaged through her desk drawer. She had found the key to the lock months ago but never used as they'd notice and take it immediately. She pulled the key from an organizer filled with hair accessories. She tiptoed to her door, trying not to be heard even before opening it. The key slides in and makes a clicking noise. She waits to hear some type of resistance. She turns the key and gently pushes the door open, just a crack and stopping as it makes a small creak. She peeked out with one eye. Tamura was lying on the floor, face turned away from her door. His lower half was covered in a black towel. She could see his legs poking out. The arm that was on the side Toga was able to see was wrapping lightly in a light blue cloth. Red spots bleed through. You can't just say in the hallway. Dobby walked down the hall from his room. He stood with one foot on either side of Tamura's head. Toga slight pulled her door closed just enough to see. She tilts her head to get a better view, gripping the door handle. Tamura groans, unmoving. Dobby kicks the side of his head. Get your butt up. He kicks the other side. Tamura doesn't get up. Seriously? Do I need Mange to carry you? He pushes Tamura's hair around with his foot. Mange walks into the hallway and stands at the end of Tamura's feet. I know you can't get up yourself. Don't be like this. Mange walks over to his side. They two of them wait for a second until Dobby rolls his eyes and back up. Mange flips Tamura and picks him up bridal style. His arms and legs stick out and hang lifeless. His room. She turns to Dobby. Next time he does this sheet twice and Spinner can deal with it. They walk down the hallway and out of Toga's sight. Once she hears Dobby's door open, she pulls her door shut and locks it back. She just stands there. She'd never seen anyone so limp. So empty, like everything inside them had been drained out. He wasn't dead. He made a sound. Toga swore she could even see him move slightly. Why did he get up? She takes few steps backwards. Eyes blank. She drops the key on the floor. And turns to her bed. She takes one step and collapses. A light thud follows as her body hits floor. She doesn't get up, doesn't grab a blanket to cover, she just lays there. Not crying or laughing, just empty. Just as empty as she saw. Toga fell asleep on the floor that night. When Toga wakes up, her door is open and the key is gone. Or so she thought. A small bowl of last night's untouched dinner sits on wooden floor in front of her. A pillow was tucked under her head and a blanket covered her lower body. She sits up slowly and picks up the bowl. Underneath it sits the key, like someone had hidden it there just for her to find. Toga, Magna says, stepping into the doorway. You've got a friend here. She steps aside and shorter girl enters the room. Achiko smiling and holding a small box in her hands. Thank you. She steps into the room and Mange closes the door behind them. Did you get in trouble last night? I'm real sorry, I shouldn't have snuck out at all. Toga studies Achiko. Light pink socks, black sweatpants and an adjoining pink sweater. Wait, how do you know where I live? She takes a bite of bacon, chewing slowly. You told me, remember? At Sunday school yesterday. Achiko walks in closer and sets the small box next to Toga. A gift. Toga picks the box up and its small enough barley cover her hand. What is it? She looks over to Achiko. It's a surprise. She crosses her legs and smiles. Go on and open it, it's kinda like an apology. She waits for Toga to open it. Toga pulled the lid off of the box. It was socks, light pink to match the ones Achiko already had on. We match. Toga proclaimed, grinning at the present. Yeah. I saw him and thought of you. Picked him up on the way over. You got me a gift. She says very matter-of-factly. Not to Achiko but to herself. Well yeah. We're friends now, ain't we? Toga smiles and takes a bite of oatmeal, chewing for longer than needed. She nods at Achiko and sets the box in between them. So, your room's real nice, Achiko added, glancing around. It's real pink, huh? Toga's room was quite pink. Lots of hand-painted and homemade items. Her blankets had hand-stitched patches covering them, and everything that could be painted had been turned to a flowery pink. Even the desk stood on 3 legs and one supported by a stack of books. The stool beside it was dark metal, topped with a white faux fur cushion that looked very much glued on. Toga smiles and nods, still chewing. Izuku sat quietly behind the lattice, hands folded in his lap, as the heavy hush of the confessional closed around him. There was a long silence before the voice on the other side finally spoke, slow, hoarse. What should I do? Izuku looked up, not in the direction of the person but just somewhere else. I don't know, he said softly, adjusting himself. What's the decision about? Another pause. I'm really hungry. Izuku breathed in. Do you want to talk about it? Tamura didn't answer right away. The air felt thick. Sometimes I do things to myself, I don't feel any different. I'm still hungry, nothing gets rid of the pit inside. I'm still just so hungry. Izuku's throat went dry. He tried not to sound shaken. Why don't you eat anything? A scoff. Quiet and bitter. Why don't you give me money for food? They both say in silence. What exactly are you trying to confess to? Izuku follows up, twisting his hands around in his lap. Another pause. Longer. It's a sin to try and kill yourself, right? His voice cracked just a little. Izuku took a deep breath. Yes it is, but you aren't dead dash. I should be tired. But I guess today wasn't the day. To kill yourself is inherently selfish. His voice cracked and he takes a breath. You're not thinking about the people around you. The ones who need you. I guess you're right in some way. The door opens and the man is gone, leaving just as fast as he came. Izuku sits completely still for a few moments, until he hears another body sit beside him. I always end up being rude to the people I want the most. Izuku recognizes the voice immediately. Katsuki. Izuku tried to keep his voice low, husky, even so Katsuki wouldn't recognize it. Do you hold regret for it? The phrasing felt unnatural, but anything to stay disguised. Yes. A lot. His voice is strangled. What am I supposed to do? Have you thought to apologize? Izuku felt wrong. He shouldn't be trying to deceive Katsuki or make him do something he wants. What if he doesn't believe me? Izuku's stomach drops. What? And he? Katsuki was talking about a man. He'd been rude to a man and he wanted him. He just misheard him. He asks barely above a whisper. I didn't mean it like that. Katsuki sounds like he's about to burst into tears and Izuku feels like a monster. You know those kinds of feelings are a sin? He didn't want to say it. He'd never want Katsuki to feel ashamed of himself. But didn't he deserve this? After everything Katsuki had put him through, he deserved to get some type of relief. And it was true. It was a sin. And what Katsuki felt was wrong no matter whoever it was. He hears quit sniffling, then finally a response. I understand. Katsuki doesn't leave, but he can hear the faint sounds of sobbing. There's always time to change, you don't have to cry. Izuku tries to use his best reassuring tone while holding his true voice back. I'm disgusting. You don't have to lie about it. There's a slight pauses. Katsuki sniffed between each word. The sobbing louder. I'll never be anything like him. Which is because before all this, I always thought I was better than him. Izuku stops himself. He has no right to ask who. You can come to counseling Tuesday, if you're INTR dash. I don't FNG need counseling. Katsuki leaves the stall and slams the door behind him. By the time Izuku waits a moment before exiting, hoping that Katsuki was gone. And he was. What is wrong with people? He says under breath, closing the confessional door. He makes his way to the bathroom. He waits outside the door for a moment, contemplating going back to the confessional as he didn't even need to use the bathroom. He opened the door to see Katsuki staring at himself in the mirror, water running down his face. Eyes teary. "If, do you want?" He barks as soon as Izuku enters. "Grip tight on the sink. I saw you leave the confessional." He tries his best to sound believable. Katsuki stares at him, lips parted, teeth clenched, breathing heavily. "I am fine." He turns back to mirror and makes a face as if he's looking at something with visceral disgust. "You're not fine, what's wrong?" Tiggs. Step closer to Katsuki. "When the hell did you get so perfect?" Katsuki doesn't turn away from the mirror, looking at Izuku through it. "What?" Izuku thinks back. The conversation in the confessional, connections slowly form in his brain. People don't just become great overnight. It's like a dim switch flipped and all of a sudden you're better than me. Katsuki turns to him, looking directly into his eyes. His red pupil were blown almost completely, expanding over his eye, leaving a small strip of blow lining them. Izuku didn't say anything, he just thought. His brain ran a million miles a minute, the same question different ways. Was he talking about me? I don't know, I just tried harder, I wanted to do better, is that bad? Izuku only stopped speaking for a moment. You don't have to be so rude about it, I didn't do anything wrong. He said the last part quieter. And he regretted immediately. Katsuki dropped his hands to his sides. His face changed from anger to a mix of shock and sadness. B seemed so taken aback. He felt disgusted with himself. "I should go," was all he said before disappearing. Izuku tried to stop him, but his body wouldn't move. No matter how much he wanted to apologize or take back what he said, he couldn't. "Oh God. It really was me." Katsuki sat on the flat stone near the water, arms on his knees, fingers digging into his sleeves. He didn't hear Achiko until she dropped down beside him with a soft huff. "You okay?" she asked gently, not looking at him right away. Her tone was casual but not careless. Familiar in a way that made it hard to ignore. He didn't answer at first. Just picked at the fraying threads on his sleeve. His voice came out rough. "Is it wrong that I like boys?" His voice cracked in the word boys. Achiko shook her head. "No, I don't. Do you think it's wrong that I like girls?" She stared into the distance at the rocks surround the creek or the water just somewhere else. Katsuki stares at her. "You like girls?" He, his gums clenching, his teeth around them. "Like you're not FNG with me?" His foot starts tapping repeatedly. "What did you think I meant when I said we were different?" She still doesn't look at him. She breathes in heavily and holds her knees tight to her chest. I hadn't told you yet?" Katsuki whispered. Achiko just nods. She doesn't say anything else. They sit in silence for who knows how long before the silence is broken. "How'd you know?" He picks up a pebble and presses it into the side of his leg. "I never said anything about it." He flicks the rock at her, replacing it with another. "You don't look at girls the way you look at him." She ignores the rock, still looking into the distance. "I never said anyone in particular." "I'm surprised he don't know. By the way you look at him alone. You're so intense." She rolls a few rocks under her feet, still looking off into nowhere. "So, that new girl, Toga, you like her? That's why you suddenly pushes her onto us." He flicks the second rock at her and picks up a third. "I didn't push her anywhere, you're the one who accepted her all open-armed." Achiko pushes some rocks forward her feet. She likes him. She called him cute. This time he picks up a fourth rock before chucking them both at Achiko's back. "She knows you like him too, I heard tell you to say he's cute." Fuff. And retrieves the 4 rocks he'd thrown at her back and sprinkles them over back. "So you went to her house today?" He repeats the motions. "Yeah, it was creepy." She looks down at her feet. Her bathroom was covered in blood, and something had puked in the tub. He didn't turn back but seemed to be actually looking at something. "That's disgusting." He reposed bluntly, continuing to roll rocks off of her back. I mean, they were cleaning it up, some guy in the kitchen had gloves on and there was cleaning stuff in there, but that blood and vomit. Where did it come from? She started looking into the distance again. If there was vomit, someone probably threw up. They didn't kill anyone or they'd hide it. See anyone sick? He took to tossing each rock individually at her back. Yeah. There was this guy. She swallowed hard. He was lying there at the end of the hallway. Like he'd fallen and didn't care. Probably his blood. If she was in her room, she probably hadn't seen it. Cleaned up before you left, right? He throws the rocks slightly lighter. Yeah, she was just waking up too. She finally turns to Katsuki. Stop doing it. It ain't pleasant. She turns back looking down at her feet. Whatever, I don't want to stop. He goes back to rolling the rocks down her back. Do you think she likes you? I mean, since I'm not getting any luck, so what about you? She sighs. She's real nice. But she's real nice to everybody, even you. Achiko picks at her pink socks. I got her matchin' socks and she was excited, like, first time gettin' ift excited. She smiles. Hey, you're winning in something here. He drops the rocks and leans back, supporting himself with his elbows. It helps that you aren't a piece of shit. He huffs. And turns away from her. You can be kind if you're not thinking about it. That's supposed to mean? He kicks a rock into her back. Not think about it? He scoffs. I mean, when you ain't trying too hard, you end up being kinda sweet. She scoots backwards, sitting next him. You're not evil or something, you know that, right? She leans her head into his shoulder. Because you're the one who gets to decide that. He leans his head into hers. You're not evil or something. You know that, right? She leaned her head against his shoulder. Like you get to decide. He leans his head into hers. Why can't I? Who's stopping me from choosing our fate? She blinks slowly, holding back tears. I don't know. That's just not how life works. He shakes his head. What are you worried about, me? You wouldn't hurt yourself. Not like that. Not ever. She leaned further into him, placing her hand between their legs. Why the F would I do that? He turns his foot to meet hers, kicking it. But it wasn't a no. Himiko. She felt a small on her foot. She shifted slowly, slotting her head under pillow. Not now, please. She whispered into her pillow. The hand on foot yanked her back, and she yelped. Hey, cut it out. She shook her foot free. Dabi was standing at the edge of her bed. He let her foot go as soon as she started thrashing erratically. Didn't expect all that. He pulls hers blanket down off the bed. It slides over her and makes an exaggerated attempt to claw it back. You've got counseling, same time, same day of the week. He turns around, sits at the edge of her bed. Hands resting on his knees. I don't need counseling. She stuffs her head back under the pillow again. Talking into the mattress. I can just stay home. She mutters something else, but Dabi didn't hear. You insisted on getting signed up, now you actually have to go. Dabi lets himself fall back, his head resting on her calves. It's still early, but you gotta get up soon. He spreads his arms across the bed and picks at the sheet. Toga groaned into the mattress, pulling the pillow down tighter over her head. He squeezes her eyes shut, craving even one more minute of sleep. It never comes. She is left sitting there, breathing shallow, with a mop of hair pressing into her legs. You're going to crush her. Twice appeared in the doorway and rushed in, grabbing Dabi's arm. I'm not crushing her, she's fine, Dabi said flatly, not resisting but not helping either. Not true. Twice yanked harder. Dabi exhaled dramatically and went limp. Twice, stop, he's fine, Toga groaned. Are you okay? Twice ignored Dabi and crossed to her, gently lifting the pillow off her head. She grunted and nodded, still facing away. Come on, you need to get ready. He tried to scoop her up. I can get up on my own. She sat up suddenly, batting his hands away. I can get up on my own. She spits, sitting up immediately, pushing Twice's hands away. Sorry, Toga. Please don't be mad at me. Twice places his hands on his head and takes a step back. Whoa, what's with the pissy attitude? Dabi leans back onto her bed. This time he's met with no disapproval. It's nothing. I just don't need help, I can stand up on my own. She slides her feet off the edge of the bed. I'm not angry at you. She smiled at Twice, who grins back. Pick out my outfit? While I shower. She stands up and sets her pillows back onto her bed. Twice doesn't answer, but he starts rummaging through her drawer, neatly sliding the clothes aside. Much tidier than when Toga does it. Toga grabbed a towel and washcloth from the closet. She stepped into the bathroom and, for once, didn't lock the door. She paused. Her hand on the knob. It just felt wrong. Like if something bad happened, no one would be able to get in. But nothing bad is going to happen to me, she whispered to herself. She smiled into the mirror and nodded. I'll leave you to play dress up. Dabi left Toga's room and headed to his. End of the hall to left, the biggest room in the house, not by much, maybe a few feet, but it mattered. Tamura was flopped onto his bed. He was lying on his stomach, arm tucked under the pillows, head somehow resting on the mattress, feet not quite reaching the end of the bed. Didn't I put you on the floor? Dabi walks over to bed and stands above Tamura. He doesn't say anything. He was wearing one of Dabi's white shirts. It was too long for him and had plenty of burn holes in the back. His legs were completely bare besides a pair of deep crimson boxers that just barely could be seen. Tamura doesn't respond, he just lays there and twitches slightly. You can't just take up my whole bed. He shakes him, he doesn't move an inch. Dabi sighs. He climbs into the bed and lays directly over Tamura, chest flat in his back and resting the side of his head in his hair. You're so bony, so not comfortable. He brings a hand into Tamura's hair and wipes it from his face. He slowly runs his fingers along each individual strand. How'd you get such soft hair? He rubs the hair on his. Tamura takes deep breath, long and heavy, like he's struggling. If I get off, you've got to get on the floor. He listens to Tamura take another breath. Or get on me. He offers. My bed. He says, barely above a whisper. Dabi rolls his eyes and pulls more hair from his face. You know why that's not gonna happen, right? Dabi pushes himself off for a moment and lifts Tamura's head and pulls all of his hair off of his face. How do you survive with this sheet? He lays back down and keeps running his fingers through it. He groans, looks at Dabi. He narrowed his eyes, obviously annoyed. You, he swallow, are even petting me. Closing his eyes again. You can't pet a person. He keeps pushing his hands through the soft pale blue hair. Every few moments he rubs it softly into his face. The door creaked. Don't understand privacy? Dabi muttered, not even moving from his place, sprawled on Tamura's back. Are you naked? Toga peeked in, holding up a shirt and shorts. Twice picked this out for counseling, but I think it says, I'm totally unstable but adorable. Good. Dabi lifted his head off Tamura's back and gave her a deadpan look. Perfect. So you should be Dash. Is he okay? She drops her hands to side, taking a step further into the room. Dabi looks at Tamura's face. He doesn't look annoyed anymore, just lifeless, completely blank. He's fine. Go get dressed. His tone sharpened. When she didn't move, he sat up a little, watching her. Toga walked to the edge of the bed. Dabi didn't say anything. Neither did Tamura. She reached out toward Tamura's leg, 2 fingers extended. Dabi kicked her hand away. Didn't I say go change? Ew. She shook her hand off like she'd touched something rotten but didn't step back. I don't see why I can't touch him. He's cold. Is he dead? She whispered, eyes dropping to the floor. She stared at the wood grain like it had answers. What the F dash? No, Toga, go get dressed. No one is dead. He kicked at her again, not hard, more a warning. She yelped and darted out of the room. Good riddance. He hummed and laid his head back down. Are you dead? He asked casually, burying his hand in Tamura's hair again. I need to go into town today. He mutters. Dabi barely hears it, but all of a sudden something in his brain clicked. Take Toga, she'll want to explore. She is really upset last time you didn't take her. Dabi preferably would have Toga stay home every single time. But having her tag along means he has a reason to come back in one piece. No. Last time you went alone, I found the car with a dent in it. And you threw up all over my sheet. He tugs his hair slightly. Still upset over losing his favorite jacket. Tamura ends, and that's when Dabi decided it's time to get up. He pushed himself off and falls to the floor. Okay, weirdo, have fun with that. I'm gonna tell her and you're gonna stay here? My room. He says into the mattress. Dabi sighs. How many times do I have to explain this? It's tiring you're staying in here. He uses the mattress to bring himself to his feet. Don't move. Well, actually, it'd be nice if I came back. You're on the floor. It was Tuesday. Toga had returned from counseling. Well, no, Toga truthfully never went to counseling, but she said she did. And no one had a reason or care to question her. It was 10:20 a.m. and she had returned home with a friend. Achiko. She was wearing short brown-heeled boots, light pink socks, long jean shorts that cut off right above her knee, and a short-sleeve white t-shirt that was obviously one size too big. The shorts had her name, two pink bubbles stitched right above the hem of the shorts. Leave your shoes on, I'll be right back. Toga slipped hers off and ran down the hallway to her bedroom, leaving Achiko standing alone. Great. She looked around. The house was quite empty. Beside a few items Toga had obviously made, the house was quite bare. A couch, a coffee table, and rug in the living room. No books, no entertainment, just the basics. The kitchen was nicer. The counters looked to actually be some type of white material, too cheap looking to be marble. The cabinets were a dark wood, half missing the handles and the other half about to fall out. The counter form a C shape, stove and fridge on one side separated by a slim space. An island with 4 mismatches stools was on the other side, no dining room table. It didn't look like a place anyone really lived. It looked like a place people hid. I'm back. Toga came back with her hair up in 2 pigtails and several pink clips pushing her bangs back. You still down? Achiko nods. She'd never left the commune and wasn't sure if her parents had. To get to town you needed a car, and cars were quite expensive, not to mention you had to buy one in town. What's it like? She steps aside, allowing Toga to retrieve her shoes. This time she uses her hands to put them on. They're flats. The heel had been long worn down. They were obviously painted red at some point, but the paint now lingered in the seams of the shoe. They were now a faded white with a light brown sole. She was wearing the socks Achiko had brought her yesterday. It's nice. A lot of shops, and they have some restaurants. She was holding a small bag, brown and leather, small enough to grasp with her hand, but it was longer. It could fit a few things. Maybe chapstick? Keys probably. Restaurant. Achiko had never heard of that word. The commune didn't have many communal areas besides church. Yeah. You sit and eat prepared food. It's pretty cheap. She flops down onto the couch and kicks her legs up to the coffee table. We just have to wait for my brother to get ready. He might take a little long. She motions for Achiko to sit down in the couch next to her. Didn't you say you don't have no siblings? Achiko was hesitant to sit down. She stood right next to the arm of the couch, remembering the mess in the bathroom. Well, he's not my mom and dad's son, but he's my brother. He takes care of me. She places her fingers clasped around the edge of the couch cushions. Well, that's real sweet. Achiko decided it wasn't best to ask about Toga's mom and dad because she'd never mentioned them before and they didn't seem to live her. A door clicks shut from the hallway. Toga's head straightened. Excuse me. She jumped off the couch and slipped past Achiko. She waited patiently, although she slight peeked into the hallway. Toga opened the bathroom without knocking. She said something quiet. Achiko couldn't make it out. She nodded slowly and closed the door back, this time not closing it fully. Waited, leaning against the wall. A tall, skinny man stepped out of the bathroom. She recognized him immediately, less sickly than before, and actually dressed this time. A long-sleeve red shirt, collar stretched, and the shirt was worn. He had on equally worn-out sweatpants and red sneakers. We're all ready. Toga skipped over to Achiko. The man followed her slowly, but it didn't seem purposeful, like he was tired. Toga stood in front of Achiko for a moment, just staring. Oh. Achiko slid to the side after realizing she was standing in front of the door. Toga opened it. The door swung outwards. She pushed it open and stepped aside, allowing Achiko and the Tamura to go outside first. She pulled the door shut and pulled a small silver key out of the small bag she had. It TH written on it with what seemed to be a marker. The door clicked shut and Toga and Tamura headed towards the back of the house. Achiko followed cautiously. They followed a small dirt path. It looked carved by continuous use. A black truck was parked flush to the house. It was slight rusty around the wheels and there was a small dent in the hood on the right side. Nice, right? Toga takes Achiko by hand, guiding her to the passenger side door. It was a 6-seater. Toga had to push the passenger seat down to gain access to the back. The two girls sat in the back. Even though they had ample space, they sat right next to each other. Although Achiko had never owned a car, neither her family, she knew what seatbelts were, and this car seemed to lack them. She didn't ask about it, they were uncomfortable anyways. Key. The finally said something. His voice was raspy and thick with exhaustion. Should he be driving? Toga dug in her small clutch and pulled out a key ring full of a few different keys. Some bronze, some silver, some a material she didn't recognize. She tossed them at the back of his head. Awesome, you're so funny. He reached behind his back and pulled them out. He fiddled with the keys for a moment before shoving one in the ignition. He turned it several times before the car started humming much louder than she remembered cars being. Is he all right to drive? Achiko leaned closer to Toga, keeping her voice a whisper. Toga smiled and nodded. He's good, went to bed early last night. He placed a hand on Achiko's shoulder. That wasn't reassuring. Not only was Achiko leaving the commune without permission, but the person driving them seemed to be exhausted after going to bed early. That ain't all that reassuring, she mumbled. There's no actual road for a while. Not that she knew what a road was supposed to look like, but a bumpy dirt path didn't seem fitting. Their car smelled like gas and burnt wood. The inside was pretty clean and lacked a smell beyond the linger of tobacco. There was silence for a while. Achiko was glued to window, absolutely marveling at the tree and birds she was seeing. She hadn't seen anything like it, so peaceful and beautiful. She'd assumed Toga was doing the same until she turned around to see Toga staring at her. At first she assumes Toga was simply looking out the same window. Until when she tilted her head and Toga mimicked it. I'm quite the sight, huh? She giggles and pokes her shoulder. You're really nice to look at. Toga smiles wider and doesn't break eye contact. Well, thank ya. I sure do appreciate the sun time dash. The car jerked. Achiko pitched forward, catching herself on the seat in front of her. Toga's hand shot out to steady her. Hey! Toga wasn't talking to Achiko anymore. She was facing Tamura, face twisted into anger. It's a dirt road. I didn't do it on purpose. Relax. Tamura muttered, still facing away from them. He made a note to avoid bumps in the future. I didn't do it on purpose. It's fine, she added, trying to smooth things over. Achiko sits up and Tamura makes a sound that sounds faintly pleased with her response. It won't happen again. Toga pats Achiko on the shoulder and then turns to face the driver's seat. I swear. She says, voice firm, and Tamura sighed and nodded in response. Eventually Toga rolled the windows down. Reaching over Tamura, who didn't seem to protest, to roll his down too. All 4 windows were down. The sounds of wind filled the car. So, he's like your brother, right? Like you're totally comfortable with him. Achiko says as soon as Toga sits back in her seat. Toga tilts her head, confused looking. As if it was a stupid question to everyone ask. Yeah, of course, like I said, he takes care of me. Neither of them realized, but they were whispering. Right. Achiko pauses and they both fall silent. You sure? She turns to Toga, analyzing her reaction. So, utterly. She spaced out the word, letting it sink in. Then she followed it with a yawn. The car turned and Achiko a long gravel road. The rock were ground down. As if they'd been driven over several times by heavy cars. It stretched down longer than she could see. A sign with 2 arrows. One labeled Sweetwater the Salt. Tamura turned left, following the sign for saltwater. She felt feet push into her thighs. She pet her head to side. Toga was laying down flat across the 2 open seats. She had a something, maybe a blanket, bundled under her head. Tired much? She gently pushed her thigh to the side, making Toga's feet slide back. She yawns, nods lightly, eyes opening for a moment before drifting back shut. Achiko leaned back, head against the window. The last thing she saw was Toga's knees, curled in the seat beside her. Then it all went quiet. Toga shook Achiko awake. Tamura was already gone. They were on a long strip, busy, and a few cars parked before a sidewalk. Each building was with a share adjoining overhangs connecting each. Shops and what she assumed to be restaurants lined the streets, plenty of people out walking around. There were two sides of road, but peeking through alleys she could see a few more wooden buildings. We've got $1 each to get whatever we want. Toga pushes the passenger seat down and climbed out of car. Achiko followed. She'd never seen anything like it, so many people in one place. She froze up for a moment, suddenly more nervous than she'd ever felt before. So, reassurant? Toga hums, already walking down to road. Achiko follows her, carefully placing each step, as if the ground would suddenly sink in around her. Toga didn't seem curious, as if she was used to the new environment. It was completely normal to her. None of the buildings were quite the same wood. Some of the windows had writing them, signs, some even colorful. She stopped in front of a building. With the words, 2 for 15, in the window in deep red bold letters, she smiled and pulled the door open, letting Achiko step in first. It smelled light of smoke, not exactly cigarette smoke, but something fresh, more pleasant. People were sitting around at tables eating plates of food. Coffee was also pungent in room. Come on. Toga walked up to a counter center in a circle around the middle of the room. An older chubby man walked up to Toga and they had a quick conversation. He said something about roast, and two of us. She pulled Achiko to a table off into the corner. Two chairs, directly across from one another. A table obviously on its last leg. A few napkins were set on the table edge that was flush with the wall. So what are we eating? You said the food is already prepared, right? She tapped her fingers in the table, taking in the atmosphere, soft and lived in. Yeah, I got roast beef. It comes with carrots, mashed potatoes, and gravy. Toga smiles at her. You're very slimly. Does it ever stop? Achiko rests her elbow in the table, chin in her palm. Still tapping with her other hand. It didn't, not before. Ever since Toga started living with her brothers, she'd never stopped smiling. She had no reason to not be. She was happy, but that night she didn't. She was upset for the first time in a long time. It burned at the corners of her mouth. Yeah, always. Is that too weird? She lied. No, I like it. You're always so positive, it's refreshing. Achiko smiles back. The man from before steps up to the table, holding two bowls, glass, and each in its own plate. He set them down in front of each girl and pulled them out a fork each from his apron, mutters a low, "Enjoy your meal," before disappearing. How do you know it's sanitary? Achiko break apart the meat with her fork. To be honest, you don't. But it's convenient. Toga takes a huge bite and smiles while she chews it. Achiko picked at the food, took a few bites, chewed fast, enjoyed the taste, but was cautious. She was halfway done and she looked up to see Toga already completely finished. She was staring again, following her movement. Want the rest? She starts the slide to bowl before Toga responds. No, she blurts out. Achiko looks confused and pulls herself back a little. Sorry, just it's you've gotta eat it all. She pushes the bowl back. Achiko does the same. Don't want it, I had a big breakfast. Toga is still smiling, but it's less. She seemed upset. Are you sure? She doesn't reach for the bowl, not until Achiko gives her nod, then she pulls it in, scarfing down every last bite. Before leaving, Toga chucks a few coins onto the table and stack their bowls. So restaurant's your thing? Toga dazed, gently guiding Achiko out of the now overfilled restaurant. Not really, they don't seem clean, but you're right, it was convenient. She breathes in the fresh air. So, we've got about $1.85 left over. Toga pauses like she made a mistake. So let's spend the 85 cents and save the rest for next time? Achiko suggests. Yeah. You're refreshing too. Last time I went out with a friend, he insisted we spend every last cent. Achiko's breath hitched and her eyes widened at the thought. Every last cent? That's so irrational? You've got to save some for next time. Toga nods in agreement, smiles growing. They continue chatting while walking back towards the car. They decided to find something free to do and keep the money for later, recover what was wasted last time. It's like you just understand me. Right away, you're so easy to talk to. Toga. Achiko stepped closer to her and placed her arm loosely next to Toga's. They don't remember when, but when they reached the car, they're much closer and almost holding hands, giggling at random jokes no one else would understand. Tamura is in the car already, he laying in the back seat less sprawled out the previous times, head resting on his arms, feet tucked together. He looked paler, more worn out, and he was sweaty, as if he'd been working the whole day. His hair was more knotted than before but also brushed in a type of messy but tamed way. Toga pulls the passenger seat down and peers in. "Hello, sleepyhead, we're back." He lifts his head slowly, hair completely obscuring his face. "Early?" He groans, pushing himself up. "Yeah. We got some food and then decided to come back, didn't want to spend everything." She climbs over the seat and sits on the edge. He sighs. "You don't need to save it, you should have got a snack or dash. Doesn't matter now. We should get home before it's dark." He nods. Toga sits in the seat and he climbs out of the car. "After you." Takes a step back behind Achiko. She climbs in and he flips the seat up and scoots over into the driver's seat. Toga reaches over the seat and pulls the passenger side door shut. "Okay, now we're ready." She wiggles back into place. The drive is just a repeat, they even hit the same bump. It's a blur really. Achiko is focusing on trying to get some more rest and Toga is taking up 2 seats laying down. Once they get back, his sun is almost set, the air is dusky and the sky is a mix of orange and pink. Toga jumped up as soon as they parked as if she'd never been asleep at all. Achiko is a little drowsy from being almost drifted off to sleep. Toga helps her out of car, being very patient with every stumble. "You are very clumsy," she chirps as they're both finally out of the car. "I'm not clumsy, I'm just tired." She can feel herself get a little flush following Toga into the house. They both take their shoes and Toga drops into the coach and lets out a long breath. While hesitant, Achiko decides it's safe enough to sit next to her. Another tall man emerges from the hallway. His hair is dark and he's less skinny. He's not muscular by any means but sure not as skin and bones as the other man. "Hey Dash," he stops at the end of hallway, scanning the room. "Where is he?" Toga tilts her head, then looks around. She shoots up, running out the door. This time she doesn't say "excuse me," the man follows. "Oh." Achiko presses her legs into the couch, deciding best not to say anything. She can hear faint sounds, not quite yelling but firm. It sounds like the raven-haired men she'd just been acquainted to. The 3 of them enter the house and the pale man takes his shoes off. "I'm so sorry. This totally isn't weird, right?" Toga's still smiling softly but her eyes look nervous. She slides over next to Achiko and sits down softer this time. "Nope. I've seen more embarrassing things plenty of times." They both giggle and start sharing stories much lounger than needed. Tamura was crouched over the toilet, arms trembling as they braced the rim. His back heaved once, twice, then a thick, wet retch tore out of him. The sound was obscene. Dabi didn't flinch. "You got anything left in there?" he muttered, craning his neck to look. "Or are you just rehearsing at this point?" Tamura didn't answer. Sweat clung to his shoulders, his hair plastered in damp strands across his face and back. At some point he'd peeled off his shirt, now twisted in a damp ball behind him. His ribs flexed with each breath, the skin pale and raw-looking, like he'd been scrubbed down to nothing. He gagged again, chest convulsing. His hands shook so hard the toilet rattled. "Bath?" he croaked, not even turning to look at Dabi. Dabi made a sound between a scoff and a sigh. "Yeah, bath privileges are revoked too." He sounded pleased with himself. Tamura slumped against the toilet seat, forehead pressed to the lid, breath coming in short, wet gasps. His whole body trembled, whether from exertion, fever, or rage, Dabi couldn't tell. But he stayed there, watching. "Done." Dabi leaned his head out again, voice more idle than concerned. Tamura's head turned toward him, hair clinging to the slick skin of his face. He gave a weak nod, chest still rising and falling like something stuck in his lungs. "You sure?" Another nod. Slower this time. Dabi stood and walked over. He crouched next to him, gaze low. "Do I need to instruct you on how to operate?" He reached down and ran a hand through Tamura's pale blue hair, pushing it gently off his face. Tamura shook his head this time. Dabi smiles. "Didn't think so." "Katsuki." Mitsuki pounds on the door. He ignores it, rolling over, shoving his face into a pillow. "Don't care." She shouts back. The knocking stops. Then there a click and the door swings open. Katsuki, get up now, you're done laying around. She walks in the room dragging her feet. Katsuki groans and pushes his face further into the pillow. There's a crash. Sheet, I'm up. He lifts his head and turns to her. There was glass in the floor surrounded by wood and a sheet of paper. Seriously, breaking my sheet? He sits up. This is my sheet, I paid for it, you're in my house. She kicks the glass across the floor. Clean up this FNG mess. She leaves the room, slamming the door behind her. He slides off the bed. He kneels in front of the glass and starts picking it up. A shard of glass cuts his finger. But he doesn't flinch. He keeps picking it up, setting it in one hand. Eventually the hand was full of glass. He stands and walks over his trash. Then he squeezes his hand hard and it starts bleeding immediately. Sheet. It burns terribly. He lets the glass fall into the trash. He shakes his hand. A few more shards fall to floor. Effing beach. He spends maybe an hour picking glass out of his hand. Every time he pulls at the glass it burns worse and bleeds more. He stares at his window. It's slight open, cracked just enough for him to slide out. He considers it. He'd be in an unimaginable amount of trouble once he got home, but he also didn't have to come home for a while, did he? Before he knows, he's out the window, still bleeding from the hand, but the air feels so good on his face. He's not sure where he's going, but he vaguely remembers wandering off. Maybe it's because he's bleeding or that he hasn't got enough sleep, but he doesn't mind. Can't go back now. He's knocking on a door and opens, and whoever's on the other side gasps. He finally actually opens his eyes properly. He's at Kirishima's, who he had surprisingly hadn't seen around as of late. Are you all right, sweetie? Kirishima's mother grabs his hand, holding a cloth to it. Yeah, I'm good, just grab something sharp. Is Kiri here? She nods and lets him, directing him to a room in the back of the house. He doesn't knock, but he wishes he had. Inside, Kirishima isn't alone. Shoto sits on the bed, completely naked from the waist down. And Kirishima is kneeling in front of him with even less clothes, and the faint sound of skiing is coming from the two. He steps right out and slams the door in his own face. What the F dash? What the F? What the F? This is great. Absolutely spectacular. He just walked in on his friends having section. Must be the luckiest person in the world. His heart was pounding, and not just from the walk. Something cracked deeper inside. The sight of them, casual, intimate, untouched by everything, made his skin crawl and his stomach twist. The door opens again and Kirishima, much more dressed, no shirt but pants. I wasn't expecting you dash. Door lock? You know your mom's is here, right? He turns his head down the hall where the living room was. Oh, I didn't hear her come in. He's holding the door open just enough to see only him. He can hear shuffling in the bedroom. Is that's not what you were doing? No pun intended. No. No way. Just, he turns his head around and looks around the room. Come into my bedroom. He steps aside and pushed the door shut behind him. Didn't mean to interrupt your moment or whatever, but I also really don't care, so I'm gonna stay. He almost takes a seat on the bed, then remembers what he saw a few moments ago and decides against it. So why are you here? To contrast, Shoto was fully dressed, long sleeve and jeans. Sitting on the same spot on the bed. Don't know, just felt like being around a bunch of idiots. Katsuki pushes the cloth further down in his hand. It was bleeding red. What happened, dude? Kirishima, tired, grabbed Katsuki's hand, but he jerked it back. Don't touch me. He looks between both of them. I don't want your germs. He properly warping it around his hand and sits with his knees to his chest. Right? Well, Kirishima sits on the bed next to Shoto. Kirishima cleared his throat. Do you want a shower or something? Sorry. That sounded weird. Just, you look like hell. No thanks, Katsuki mumbled. He didn't look up. I didn't come here for spa day. Shoto watched him quietly. You're bleeding on the floor. So mop it up, Katsuki snapped, but there was no bite behind it. There was a long pause. Kirishima opened his mouth, then shut it again. Then he tried anyway. You want to tell us what happened? Katsuki didn't answer. He shifted, pulling his knees tighter. His eyes burned, and it wasn't just from the sting in his hand. I cut myself, is it not obvious? Like you cut yourself or got cut? Shoto stood up from the bed and walked over to Katsuki. Either is fine. He grabs his hand and pulls the cloth off, looking at the cuts. I don't know. Maybe both? Who gives a sheet? Katsuki tries to pull his hand back and Shoto doesn't let him. There's still glass, mind if I get it out? Shoto moves before Katsuki says anything, pulling him to his feet and guiding him to the bathroom. Didn't know you had a bathroom in your room. Katsuki gets on the edge of the bathroom, and Shoto and Kirishima stand picking small pieces of gelasse from his hand. Yeah, so what you mean both? Kirishima squeezes his wrist when picking out a particularly deep shard. Katsuki winced. Be gentle, F. He tries to close his fist, but his hand was already being held open. He sighed in defeat. You're avoiding, Shoto said without looking up. And you're not my therapist, so I really don't have to tell you anything. Katsuki grinned and Shoto and Kirishima just looked at each other. Once all the glass is out, Shoto washes Katsuki's hand in the sink and Kirishima wraps it up with t-shirt he tore up. So how long are you staying? It's already pretty late. Kirishima tries to get him to sit on the bed, but the floor feels more clean. How late? I just got up before coming here. The other two boys look shocked. It's already 7 in the afternoon. Shoto takes seat next at him on the floor. Katsuki blinked. You're shitting me. Nope, Kirishima said, settling on the edge of the bed with a soft thump. Sun's setting. That's messed up, Katsuki muttered. He ran his good hand through his hair. Guess that's what happens when you wake up to screaming and broken glass. No one said anything for a beat. Shoto shifted beside him, knees drawn up. You're staying, right? Katsuki didn't look at him. I shouldn't. Not what I asked. Kirishima leaned forward. You don't have to say why. You just have to stay. Katsuki's throat tightened. He hated that. The quiet space between them. The way they were both watching him without pressure, like they'd already decided he didn't have to explain anything. He slumped further down the wall. I didn't bring anything. You don't need anything, Kirishima said. You can wear my clothes. Again. Katsuki didn't argue. He just closed his eyes for a second. Then, fine. But I'm not sharing a bed with either of you freaks. Shoto gave the faintest shrug. No problem. I'll take the floor. Katsuki cracked a smile, just barely. Sounds perfect, shitty hair can join you. Since you're both so close all of a sudden. Shoto nodded, stood up, and pulled Kirishima off the bed, followed by most on the pillows and blankets, leaving one of each. Come on, it's my bed, I can't stay on it. Katsuki woke to the sound of breathing. Not his. Not alone. The blanket was sliding off his chest, and the floorboards creaked. So, rhythmic. He cracked one eye open. Kirishima and Shoto were curled together on the floor just a few feet away. Shoto had one hand in Kirishima's hair, the other resting low on his waist. They were kissing. Slow. Familiar. Like they'd been doing it all night. Katsuki blinked, unsure if he was still dreaming. Then Kirishima made a quiet sound, soft and pleased, and Katsuki sat straight up. Katsuki blinked, unsure if he was still dreaming. Then Kirishima made a quiet sound, soft, pleased, and Katsuki sat straight up. Maybe wait until I'm not around? They broke apart instantly, eyes wide. Kirishima coughed, face flushed. Sorry, he choked out between coughs. Katsuki groaned and flopped back down, yanking the blanket over his face. Just pretend you can't hear us, Shoto said calmly, already turning back to Kirishima. Trust me, I will. Katsuki pressed his hands to his face. God, he could still hear them breathing, all soft and content over there. Fing idiots. He finally shut his eyes, trying to fall back to sleep. But it was useless. The air felt too warm now. His shirt stuck to his skin. The bed dug into his hip in all the wrong places. His hands still ached beneath the pillow. And then, like some sick joke, Izuku's face showed up behind his eyelids. Not angry. Or crying. Just looking at him. That dumb, earnest look, like he still believed Katsuki was good. Like he'd never been done anything wrong. Like Katsuki deserved to be touched gently. His chest tightened. He rolled to his side, fists curled against his mouth. The thought came before he could stop it. What would it feel like if Izuku kissed him? Not a daydream. Not something he'd ever let himself want. He pictured Izuku's hand against his jaw, tentative, like he was scared to touch too much. His mouth would probably be warm. Slow at first. Awkward maybe. But he'd mean it. God, he'd mean every second of it. Katsuki swallowed hard, eyes still shut. His hand curled into the blanket. He hated how bad he wanted that. This is sick. He forced his eyes open. But the image wouldn't leave it, twisted in his gut like something rotten, something that wanted to stay. Eventually, exhaustion dragged him under. But even in sleep, he couldn't outrun the heat pressed behind his ribs. When he woke up, light was filling the room through Kirishima's windows. He felt something heavy on him, like someone laying over top of him. Then he felt soft breathing on his cheek. He barely peeled his eyes open, looking to the side. Red was all he could see. Then he felt something touch his face. Disgusting. A foot was inches from his face. He tried to get up, couldn't. He sighed and rolled the other way. Something hit the floor with a loud thump. There was a groan from the floor. Ow, Kirishima muttered, voice muffled by the blanket he'd apparently fallen with. You kicked me. What part of I don't want to sleep with you is confusing? Katsuki snapped, still not turning around. The floor is hard, the bed soft. He felt the weight on top of him shift. You are lying on me. Not the bed. Then the weight is gone and Shoto is laying next to him, grinning. You took up too much space for us all to fit. He pulls the pillow from under Katsuki's head. He throws it to the floor. Right, so I was the next best option? Shoto nods in response. So, breakfast? I'll make it. Kirishima forcefully turned Katsuki to face him. He just stares at him. I think he's still mad about the bed situation. Whatever you want to make is fine. Shoto sheets up, fully taking the blanket away from Katsuki. All right, I'll be back. Kirishima leaves the room. And Shoto immediately lays back down, fully covering his entire body with the blanket. They sat in silence for a while. Shoto is breathing heavily and pulls the blanket down for air now and then. Katsuki just stares at the ceiling. You always this handsy with everyone? Katsuki grunts. But wouldn't say that lying on you is handsy. You're just so normal about it. Katsuki sits up his elbows, then shifts to face Shoto, who's still under the blanket. Right. It's slightly muffled. You're not even concerned that I caught you too, like that? Shoto pulls the blanket off his face and takes a deep breath. He doesn't go under this time. You answered for me. He said so softly, like none of this mattered. I know what I said, but it's not just something little. The two of you kissed and your guys. He tried his best to keep his voice steady. It was not that good at first. Kirishima, he felt like it was wrong. Like really wrong. He avoided me for a long time and then. Shoto stares out the window. He told his mom, and she said something to him and stopped avoiding me. He sounded indifferent, like he wasn't sure how exactly he was supposed to feel. What about you? I never told my parents and I don't plan to, but it never felt wrong. I don't see how my feeling could be wrong. Shoto looked at him. He wasn't smiling anymore, but he looked like he's staring into his soul. Okay, creep, congratulations for being better than everyone else. Katsuki didn't turn away. I just don't see why what I feel is wrong. But everyone's different. No, you're different. Dabi laid on his bed, sweating. No blanket. Facing the wall. He heard carpet dragging. He ignored it. It was too hot, too close. He hadn't eaten in days, and he didn't have nearly enough energy to deal with whatever Tamura was doing. Then he felt teeth. Stop it, he muttered, rolling onto his stomach. More teeth. Harder this time. Dabi. I think that's the first time you've said my name, he said, not bothering to roll over. There was more rustling, then the edge of the bed dipped under someone's weight. The mattress shifted. He felt Tamura's breath on his back. Please, get up. It sounded needy. Desperate, almost. Dabi groaned and turned his head the other way. Please. Softer. Hungrier. A hand dragged down his spine, warm and shaky. What would you like from me, oh great Lord Tamura? He muttered. You're burning up, Tamura says. He shifts, his knee brushing Dabi's leg. Yeah. No sheet. Did you eat? Dabi gives a half laugh into the pillow. What, you gonna spoon feed me now? I could, Tamura says, so quietly it almost doesn't register. If you let me. You're effing you weird. So are you. He straddles Dabi, sitting directly on his thighs. It only intensified the heat. He doesn't move. I brought you something. Dabi finally turns over. There's a glass of water on the nightstand and what looks like cold rice in a bowl on the floor. You left the room. He leans forward, pressing his chest against Dabi's back. I brought you something. I was being nice. He says it right against his ear. What else did you do? Dabi stares at the bowl. It's not clean. He sees dirt still in the rim and the rice is obviously cold. The cup is covered in finger smudges and he swears he can see a black fleck at the bottom of it. Why? Just tell me before I have to find out you've set the house on fire. Dabi doesn't even try and get up. He just sighs. Why won't you pay attention to me? His voice is broken but so fang needy. Is he fang begging? Please. Tamura bites Dabi's ear, just barely, but he still bit it. What the F are you doing? He twists his head to finally look at Tamura. He's less pale, flushed, even. His eyes are glassy. His lips too pink. He looked alive? For the first time in months. No years. Tamura actually looked like more than human shell. I just want you to. His eye go blank, completely empty, but then they snap back. Like a rubber band pulled too hard and then released. Hang out with me. You don't even look this present when you're up and doing shit. What changed? I just want you to. His eyes go blank, completely empty, then snap back. Hang out with me. You don't even look this present when you're up and doing shit. What changed? Tamura shrugs. I dunno. I ate. You did not eat. I did, he says, tone defensive. You just didn't see it. You ate air maybe. Tamura slouches a little, like Dabi's skepticism actually hurts him. Why do you care? I don't, Dabi says flat. But he doesn't shove him off either. Tamura looks at him for a long second. Then he slinks off his legs and lays down beside him, one arm draped lazily across Dabi's back. His forehead rests against the pillow, breathing slow and weirdly calm. I hate when you ignore me, he mumbles into the blanket. Dabi sighs. You're exhausting. You let me in. I was asleep. You're still letting me. Silence. Then, did you spike the water with something? No. Pause. Probably. F&D hell. Dabi sits up, rubbing his eyes. He throws his legs off the side of bed and just sits there. Good spiked or bloody vomiting death spike? He grabs the glass. Sleepy time death spike. Tamura sits up and tries to grab the cup. Dabi moves it from his reach. So what, just let me drink it and I'll die? Then what will you do? Dabi stands up and holds the cup in front of his face. Tamura doesn't say anything. Dabi brings the cup to his lips. Don't dash. He jumps out of bed and grabs the cup. Water spills onto the floor. He takes it back to the nightstand and almost sets it down. His hand just hovers there. How much of whatever your weird do found is in that? Dabi walks over to the nightstand. He doesn't look at the glass, not Tamura, not anything. A lot. His hand shakes. Enough. He finally sets it down. Enough for what? He grabs Tamura by the wrist, both hands, and turns him to face him. His eyes are blank again. He not smiling or frowning either, just existing. Dabi keeps hold of his wrists, tighter than he means to. Enough for what? He asks again, quieter now. Tamura's mouth twitches, like he's trying to make his face do something human. Enough for us, for tonight. Dabi doesn't let go. He only tightens his grip. Us. He pulls Tamura closer. Tonight. He repeats, softer, like he's almost asking. Dabi lets his wrists and pushes him back. He lands on the bed. Are you seriously asking permission? I'm asking for you. His face flicks back, like a light switch he's choosing to flip on and off. His face lights up. He's flush and alive. Dabi takes a moment to think. Was he always so beautiful? I mean, he's deranged but now he looks somewhat normal. He looks at the glass. It's more than half full, and with such a close look he's able to tell the water is murky. How long? Until whatever is that sheet is kill you, I'm gonna. You already had your share. He picks it up by the rim, swirls the cup a little, then set it back. Hour at most. But I didn't have any. Dabi stares at him. Something cold in his chest shifts, scrapes against bone. Then drink it. His voice isn't soft, this isn't soft. But doesn't want to hurt him, he wouldn't ever want to hurt him. But how long can you force someone to live for nothing? It would be selfish to keep him from the death he desires, wouldn't it? Before he can even process what he said, Tamura is hauling the glass to his face. There no pause, no look, nothing, just the soft sound of swallowing. He wraps his hands around where Tamura are on the cup. He's a little more than halfway through it. He drops the cup onto the nightstand, it lands face up, but he couldn't care less. Let's go. He's already halfway out the door. Where? Tamura's following him, closely, too close, they're almost handing hands. I let you die, so we're gonna hang out. He walks out into the hallway. Then he stops at Toga's door, it's half open. He pulls it shut and flicks the deadbolt closed. Couch. He waits for Tamura to sit before heading into the kitchen. He opens the cabinet under the sink with his foot and pulls out 4 full glass bottles. 2 under his arms, 2 in his hands. He practically throws them onto the coffee table. They clank together, one even cracks slightly. Dabi grabs the cracked one first. There's a small etch near the rim. He twists off the cap and takes a sip. It's strong, insanely strong. He doesn't remember who he got it from, just that it was some homebrewed crap. Not crap, actually he could probably get buzzed off 2 shots. Can I have some? Tamura reaches for the bottle, still at Dabi's mouth. His fingers barely graze it before Dabi pushes him back. Sure. Dabi turns toward him and grabs his chin. Open. He sets the bottle down, adjusts his grip, then picks it up again. He pours it into Tamura's mouth faster than he can swallow. It spills over, runs down his chin, over his neck, glistening. When Dabi finally pulls back, Tamura swallows hard, again and again. But he doesn't wipe his mouth. Just leans back, smiling. Thanks. He shifts, presses his back into the armrest, and kicks his feet up on Dabi's thighs. Dabi drinks more. He takes a small breaks in between each drink, making sure he remembers to breathe. Then the flow of alcohol stops, and the pint is empty. He grabs the next one, it's tossed over in its side, and twists off the cap. Why so much? Tamura's voice is slower but still warm. Dabi turns to the side, he's right in his face. Sitting up and leaning into Dabi's face, he almost chokes. He coughs, some alcohol shoots of his mouth. He's still coughing when he presses his palm into Tamura's face and pushes his head back into the couch. You're horrifying. It comes out slurred, barely understandable, but Tamura seems to understand based on the fact he's smiling wider. Did you dash? He sits back, he presses his face into the Dabi's shoulder. Did you even like me? He trails his arms up his arms slowly until he reaches the same spot his face is. What? He takes another drink. This time he feels his breathing get slower. I didn't answer him. I don't know. He takes a drink again. It's slower, less rushed. He swallowed twice before he finally sets the bottle down. I think I liked you. He pushes his entire body into Dabi. You saved me. 25 minutes. Dabi slurs. He pushes hair from his face and stands up. He trips over himself. What? Tamura doesn't stand, but he scoots to the edge of the couch. I'm gonna lay on my back, okay? He grabs Tamura's arm and yanks him off the couch. It's not hard, he mainly gets up on his own. His legs are shaking, just so slightly Dabi thinks he might be imagining it. He sits in the couch and turns to face forward and lays back, hands behind head. Alright, I'm good now, dash. Tamura throws himself back on the couch, landing with his head in Dabi's chest. I'm good too. He pulls his legs up and his body goes slack. Dabi tries to stretch, but his arms feel heavy. His fingers don't want to listen. You're heavy, he mumbles. Tamura just hums and presses in closer. His breath is hot against Dabi's ribs. I'm gonna throw up, Dabi says, barely more than a whisper. He doesn't move. His stomach shifts, but the signal doesn't make it to his legs. Tamura giggles. Or maybe hiccups. Okay. Don't dash. Dabi's mouth is dry now, even though he drank enough to drown. His throat burns. Turn me. It comes out raspy. Dry and much louder than he expected. Tamura mutters something, then goes quiet. A few minutes pass. The kind that melt into nothing. Dabi blinks. His head's tilted back, mouth slightly open. He doesn't remember closing his eyes. There's a warm wetness against his stomach. Tamura's breathing's changed. Slower. Shallower. Then Dabi's stomach lurches. Vomit rises fast. His body jerks. But his limbs don't move right. His arm twitches, but it doesn't help. He chokes. It burns. Some of it comes out. Some of it doesn't. Tamura raises his head. His eyes are wide and he's shaking more noticeably this time. His face contorts. He places his hand on Dabi's jaw. To turn him, to push his jaw closed, he didn't know. His hand just hovered, because nothing happens. Dabi tries to say something. Just Tamura's name. But nothing comes out but wet gasps. And then quiet. He hears something, it's muffled. But the sound feels loud. He doesn't know how to describe it, he's never felt anything like this before. The noise persists, it recognizes it for a second. Screaming. He thinks it might be Tamura, but he feels the hand on him fall. It's almost cupping his neck, but it's not closed, it's just there. He can't feel the heaving of Tamura's chest, his body feels dead weight, dropped on top of him, wrapped in slight flush, too pink bow. But that sound, it's still there just for a second. He tries to fix his eyes to it. Then it's over. So we're having a sleepover like two princesses, huh? Achiko drops her bag beside Katsuki's door. He doesn't respond, just scowls at her. She takes the entire bed to herself, sprawling out on it. I mean, seriously, how'd you convince your mom to agree to this? She adjusts the sheets, tossing a few blankets off the bed. My mom doesn't give a shit what I do, frankly. Not everyone got prying parents. He scoops the blanket and drapes them over the end of the bed. I never said mine are prying. She uses her foot to scoot the blankets off the bed again. Katsuki looks at her as if she stabbed him. You do not need 300 blankets. She picks up a pillow, examines it, and chucks it off the bed as well. Katsuki picks it up and just holds it, and Achiko cannot stop herself from giggling. He swats her with the pillow, hard enough to send her sprawling. Peel dash, her laughing keeps going, too loud now to hold back. Chill oidish, she is in a deep breath, and then starts coughing. That's what you effing get, Pinky. He tosses the pillow on the bed and leaves the blankets on the floor. She flings herself off the bed, catching herself with both arms out like a gymnast sticking a landing. Katsuki doesn't even turn to look at her, just staring at the fallen blankets as if the worst tragedy he's ever seen. She walks up to his dresser. It's tall, wood, and has golden handles. There's several pictures frames, most of Katsuki from when he was a kid, 7 maybe 8. They each have words either written or etched into them. The ones with writing at too faded to read. She settles on a photo of Katsuki when he was no older than 9 at best, and he's standing next to a boy who isn't much taller or bigger than he is, but she recognizes him right away. So, how long have you and Izuku know each other? She grabs the frame by the side. She doesn't quite hold it up for him to see, mainly just looks at the picture. Don't put my stuff down. He doesn't get up to take it from her, but she obliges, setting down gently and holding her hands up ever so slightly. Not gonna break anything. She mumbles, looking at each of the other photos closely. This one's got just you and his mom? She picks it up, ignoring the fact she can almost feel Katsuki yelling at her to put it down. I met her once, she's a very nice woman. She holds out the frame for Katsuki to see, and he actually gets up this time, walking towards her. You're gonna break them. He snatched it from her and sets it back much rougher than she did. Right, I am going to break it. She huffs. Most of the photos are actually Katsuki and Izuku. There is maybe one of him and his parents. Well, 2 with mom and dad, and his dad is quite a few of the rest. Please tell me you've got a photo album. She's already look around the room. Oh, I bet you'd have some of Izuku's too, huh? She walks in a circle around the room before peeking under the bed. Bingo! She drops to her knees and slides out a box with photos already falling out. How do you manage this sheet? I mean, come on. Katsuki kicks the box back under his bed and she only retrieves it again, this time making sure to set on the bed. She pops the lid off like she's opening buried treasure and starts flipping through the stack, one glossy memory at a time. You were such a cute kid. I mean, look at you, all pale and alien looking. She holds up a photo of Katsuki standing in the snow, face much too close to camera. You've officially evolved from annoying to making me want to rip my hair out. He picks up each photo after she's done with it, sometimes reading the words on the back and other times just to complain about Achiko getting her fingerprints on them. You and Izuku are all close in this one. She almost shoves the photo in face. It touches the tip of his nose. He grabs it and just stares at her. What? She shrugs and starts looking at more photos. The photo just plain, and Katsuki wouldn't say they're close by any means. He remembers his dad took it. It was their first time learning to skip rocks or something even dumber. Katsuki picked it up immediately. Izuku, well, he didn't even try. He mostly just hurled rocks into the lake or dropped them gently, like he was afraid of hurting the water. Every time Katsuki made sure make a small remark or actually perform the skill properly, which for some reason ended in Izuku staring at him like a creep the rest of the evening, leading to his taking this photo without saying anything. We're like 5 feet apart in this. He drops into the growing stack of discarded images. Achiko picks it up and holds it in the air like he's some type of sacred treasure. He's staring at you like you're some divine angel. This isn't just a discard photo, you've got to put this in one of your frames. She whips around and holds the photo each frame, trying to find one that will fit perfectly. I'm not putting that up or any of these. He scoops the like and dumps it back into the box. Once they're all in, he turns to her. She's holding the photo next to a frame that is the perfect size and he's pouting, like a dog begging for food. No. That photo is creepy. Achiko looks like she's about to throw a fit in order to get it displayed, then she starts smiling and sets the photo on the dresser. I mean, I could always just give this to Izuku. I'm sure I'd get my dreams of this perfect photo in a frame then, huh? She puts the lid back on the box and sets it in the floor. No way. He places a foot in front of the box, stopping her from sliding it back under the bed. Izuku has never and will never see that photo. Put it back. He kicks the lid and she immediately slaps it back on and forces the box under the bed. Don't think I'm a fan of that actually. She grabs the photo and darts to her back, sliding it into the first open pouch she finds. This photo's like my national treasure now. I didn't think I'd ever capture the way you two look at each other, but I'm halfway there. She stands up still smiling and Katsuki might explode. Just wish you weren't turned around in that, but who cares, I've got plenty time. She takes her spot on the bee again, making sure to take up any available space. You're an idiot. Katsuki sits in the bed directly on top of Achiko's arm. And you can't hog my bed. He leans into the wall and makes sure to get very comfortable before she can pull her arm away. God, you're so heavy. She manages to free her arm and sets it in his lap this time. Then she gets an idea. Izuku lives, like, not even 5 minutes from you. His house is right there. She points out the window to a small but noticeable house in the distance. Katsuki kicks her in the ribs, and she sits up still pointing. I'm not joking, that is his house. He moved right next door to you. She holds her out like she's begging for him to understand something. Okay. He rolls his eyes. You're kidding me, right? He moved right next door to you. I mean, I can even see into his windows from here. She walks over to Katsuki's windows and points to the house. It's not that close. She's definitely exaggerating. Any window view is too small to be worth it, and not one of the windows line up. And he's home. I can kinda see him through the living room window. He's just reading. She sounds disappointed at the aspect of him reading. I've personally never used those windows to creep, so you don't get to. He grabs her by the shoulders and pulls her back. I'm not creep, I'm helping you. She pushes him away and puts her face against the glass again. He's right there. Come on, let's go. She walks over to her bag and throws it over her shoulder. No way. Just shush and come on. I'll slip out and head home after a while. My parents won't even be home. She opens the door, motioning for Katsuki to leave first. I'm no dash. Get the F out this door right now. She points out the door. Katsuki nods and is already out the door and pulling the front door open. I'm not scared of you or whatever. He mutters, pulling the door shut behind him. Yeah, didn't say you were. Katsuki's halfway down the front steps when he glances back. Achiko's trailing just behind, bag slung over one shoulder, arms crossed like she's trying not to shiver. Thought you were going home? He stops halfway down the path. So you could just run back home? She pushes him forward and they keep walking. Eventually they're outside of Izuku's house. Nothing special, just wood and brick. You're absolutely gonna be the one knocking. She grabs his wrist and leads him up the stairs. He doesn't knock. He doesn't even move. Achiko knocks twice. You owe me. She steps back, nudging Katsuki forward. Somewhere inside, something rustles. Then the doorknob turns and the door opens, slowly. It creaks slightly. Hello. He just stares. Izuku is standing in the doorway, matching pajamas set on a pair of reading glasses. Hey. Achiko steps up and stands next to Katsuki. I was at Katsuki's and I realize you lived so close. She grabs him by the arm and walks past Izuku into the house. No invitation. Oh dash. She cuts him off. And Katsuki thought it would be the best idea to come over and hang out, right? She finally lets him free and looks at him. He blinks and looks at Izuku, then nods. Yeah, so I don't think he's ever even been here, right? She pokes her head into the living room. It's cozy, soft-looking rug, brown coffee table, couch buried under blankets and pillows, a few of them already scattered on the floor. There are a few bookshelves scattered, about 3 open, are sitting on the coffee table next to a mug of something warm. Right. She repeats, guiding both of them into the living room. She takes a seat on the couch and Katsuki sits next to her. Izuku remains standing. Right. Katsuki says through his teeth. Izuku starts to look nervous. He rubs the back of his neck and looks out the window. Achiko looks at Katsuki and then Izuku, then she tilts her head towards Izuku while staring at Izuku. He stays silent and she sighs. Smells good, caramel? She asks, scanning the room before spotting a nearly burnt-out candle. Oh, yeah, Katsuki actually got me that bulb for Christmas. He picks it up and blows it out, giving the two a soft smile. It's April. I was saving it. He sets it back and just stands awkwardly in front of the shelf. He shifts slightly. My birthday's soon. Katsuki finally speaks up and Achiko looks so like she was dehydrated and finally for a drink of water. Oh yeah, you're gonna be, 20, right? No, it's 19, I think? Izuku finally stops messing with the candle and sits with the two of them. Yup, 19, still younger than the rest of you. He leans back into the couch. No, isn't Kaminari your age? Katsuki groans and turns to her with a disappointed look. Kaminari is older than you both. He crosses his arms. No way? He's just so naive to be older than me. Izuku grabs the cup from the table and takes a sip. Dumb, you mean dumb. And yeah, he's 24, 25 this year, I think so. He shrugs. Seriously? Okay. What about Kirishima and Shoto? They're your age, right? Achiko pokes him an arm. Katsuki groans again and throws his hands in the air, like Achiko has said the most absurd thing he's ever heard. Kirishima is your age. Shoto's a year younger. So like I said, I'm the youngest of you idiots. He yawns like this conversation is tiring him. Oh, well, I just thought you hung around people more your age. Izuku rubs the back of his neck. Guess not. Achiko kicks him in the leg and he almost yelps. He bites his lips shut. She looks at as if he's crazy and motions her head towards Izuku. So, Achiko stands up. I've gotta go. I totally forgot about. She pauses and walks towards the door. Something that I had to do. She waves and slips out the door. So, how have things been? Izuku takes another sip from the mug. Fine. He rubs his hands down his thighs. Can I get a tour? He stands up. Because I've never been here and all. He looks to Izuku, who's sweating for some reason. It's not for a lack of invitation. I've asked you to come by many times. He sets the cup down and starts walking towards the kitchen. Come by, you've never invited me to a sleepover. The kitchen is more cleaned up than the living room. The counters are granite and they're a bronzy oak wood. Silver's handles and a silver sink. The cleanliness is simply for a lack of material. There are 2 bowls, 1 plate and maybe 3 forks. No spoons. Each cupboard is completely empty aside from dust. I didn't think you'd want to sleep over. Izuku follows behind Katsuki, closing each cabinet he leaves open after peering in. You don't have sheet. He pulls a drawer open. It has a butter knife and nothing else. He shuts it. How do you survive without spoons? He walks around to small table. It's pushed against the wall, placed under a window. 3 chairs and a few napkins scattered across it. I have spoons. They're just in the sink. He grabs a spoon from the sink and holds it up. It's dripping. Next room. He spins around and waits for Izuku to lead him to the next place. He's led to a set of stairs, built into the wall with a white railing. Sure it's not gonna collapse? He places a foot on the first step. It creaks and he continues sighing. It's fine. Stop making fun of my house, please. Izuku reaches the top of the staircase and waits for Katsuki to meet him. What are you waiting for? You just come on. The hallways is small, just 2 doors. One is at the end of the hall and the other directly in front of the staircase. The other side of the hallway is purely for decoration. Izuku hasn't seemed to figure that out as it's empty. Izuku opens the door his bedroom and it's almost a copy of his living room with a bed. Instead of a couch. The bed is covered in what he can count as 5 different blankets and 7 pillows. You've got 5 blankets but not even 2 plates? He doesn't step, but he leans forward enough to see that the room is pretty small. There's a dresser at the foot of the bed and that's it. I get cold easily. I can't fit a desk, so I figure I'd stuff my bed. He picks another blanket up from the floor and tosses it on the bed. But this is just excessive. You can't possibly need all of this or use it all. He is still standing in the doorway. Izuku is sitting on his bed now with a pillow in his lap. I mean, some of it falls off when I sleep, but Mo's dash. Some? You need maybe 3 pillows and 2 blankets. All do this is too much. He shakes his head, which seems to actually disappoint Izuku. You can't seriously say you only need 2 blankets? All of this is required. He picks at a green blanket on the bed. He pouts at Katsuki, who's still waiting at the door. You can come in, you're always welcome in my house, Katsuki. He stands still for a moment more, then takes a single step so that he's standing just inside the doorway. Just, didn't know if you wanted me here or not. He shrugs. Of course I want you. He stares at the floor for a moment, then he turns red. Here, want you here. He clarifies. Katsuki doesn't say anything right away. Just shifts his weight from one foot to the other, like something's crawling up his spine. Yeah, he mutters. Okay. He walks in the room and looks around properly. The walls are painted. He can tell by patches of gray peeking through the yellow paint he covered it with. You really planned on living here alone? With what a bunch of blankets for company. He touches a more prominent gray patch in the wall. I mean, you live right next door, so I figured you'd be here sometimes. Me. He turns to fully face the wall, tracing every mark of missing paint. You always talk about how you want to get away from your mama's dash. You didn't buy this house for me, did you? Like, seriously? Katsuki doesn't turn around. He doesn't even flinch. No, not exactly. But I would love for you to come and visit me as much as you like to, and since it's close, that could be whenever you want to. Katsuki doesn't answer. His fingers drag slowly down the chipped part of the wall. There's dust under his nails now. He turns finally and sees Izuku still sitting on the bed. Pillow in his lap. Trying not to look too hopeful. When Katsuki does respond, it's quite a, you really picked next to me. Out of anywhere. I guess I did. You planning that the whole time? Little creepy, don't you think? He turns around and presses both hands into the wall, his body following. Creepy? I mean, I guess now that you say that, it might just be a little creepy. He pushes hair from his face and bites his lip. He eventually lays his back on the bed and sighs. I didn't intend for it to be creepy. Right, because you bought the house next to mine out of complete, utter blissful friendship? His voice is mocking and he's on the verge of laughing. It wasn't like that. Not at all. If you're not comfortable, I could move. He looks at Katsuki, who's still pressed against the wall. You'd move? He bites his cheek. If you wanted me to, do you want me to? Izuku looks up to the ceiling. He doesn't hear any for a while. It's silent. Until the bed creaks and Katsuki is sitting on his bed, legs crossed, facing the head of the bed. He notices Izuku looking at him and uncrosses his legs and rests them on the pillow sitting on his hips. You want me to stay that bad, huh? Katsuki asks. It's half a sneer, but softer than usual. Izuku opens his mouth, closes it again. Yeah. I do. Katsuki stares. I was horrible to you. I mean, I made it my life's mission to outshine you. He presses his feet down hard against the pillow. And you did. You shined so bright I actually started looking up to you. He chuckles and he tries to move. He presses his hands into the mattress and almost scoots back. That sounds even more creepy but flattered. Izuku sighs again and decides to stay put. You're such a terrible guest. He grabs a blanket and pulls it over his face. And you're supposed to be hosting but you're hiding under a blanket. Katsuki shifts again, toes curling into the pillow. You're warm, he mutters. Izuku mumbles something through the blanket. That a complaint? No. Just didn't expect it. You know, 'cause of all the blankets. The blanket rustles. Izuku peeks out, eyes squinting. I'm not that warm. Katsuki watches him for a long moment. Then he slides off the pillow and stretches his legs out beside Izuku's. This is weird, like weird I don't even know why I'm here, or why you're so eager to keep me here. Katsuki leans over the edge of bed. He keeps his hands on it but his head is just barely touching the floor. You're gonna get dizzy like that. Izuku grabs Katsuki by the wrist and tries to pull him up. Katsuki resists. Maybe I'll get too dizzy to find my way out of your shitty house. You'd like that, right? He tries to pull his arm back but Izuku won't let go. I'm not trying to kidnap you. Or lock you in my basement or something, just if you want to stay you can. He uses both hands pull him back up.